Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any public comments? All right.
Okay, let me first thank you three. I don't know what be here next meeting, but Marty, Steve, and you, thank you for the good job you all did in the last year. Unfortunately, Mr. Oka, we had a little blue out, but I've forgotten that.
Me too.
And I wish you all three the best and hope they have a good election. And I heard you quit while you have a sickness in the house. I wish the best to your wife.
Thank you.
And that. Another thing I want to say, I'm not happy. I have talked to a couple board members about the outlet. I think so we're supposed to put in a referendum of the people who want us to stay in the food business in Ocean Pine. A lot, because it's a lot of money. And that. Another thing I want to ask you, Mr. Walker, you come into my street and see your ditches. The ditch, I have complained about a while back about it. This week a guy was there with his plow, or what you call it. It's that kind. The ditches, we have a ditch where the water runs between the houses.
Okay.
All right. I talked to the guy, and the guy said, Mr. Oatsman, that's what they told me to do. They cut it and leave it laying. They got only 1/3. And I tell you, Mr. Oka, it's that high. In April, when we had the big rainstorms, 2 people in my street, we ran and stayed it in that ditch and cleaned it out. It was all water around this house. If we do something, please do it right. The 2 pipes what goes under the street are half full of mud. What the management has to do, they go and clean that out. Get the mud away from the pipe. And don't let that's not grass inside, I don't know what you call it, it's that thick. When it rains, it stops the pipe up, and all our houses around our houses is flooded. And in fact, it's the first time I had water in my garage. Water cannot run away. If we do something, if we spend $2.5 million on the yacht club, can we not spend $1,000 to clean the ditches out? I'm very disappointed. I want you to go today and look it over.
So I have to go today, or can I go tomorrow?
Well, today or tomorrow before.
You know I'll go, don't you?
I hope so.
I want to make sure I know exactly where you're talking
Between
about.
house number 10 and 8, there's a ditch on both sides. If you see
And what street?
Lord Guy. My house number is 12.
I'll go look.
I want you to look to it.
I will. I promise.
Okay, that is all I got to say, and like I say, you 3 guys, I wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Dutch. Are there any more public comments?
I do. I'm here to address John Ament,
In the address?
3/4 Staff Place, lot 646, Noel House.
Mr. Abed?
Yes.
This is public comments now. You've got 5 minutes. I don't really hold it exactly to that, but,
It's more than sufficient.
Okay.
I'm here to address a grievance. I appealed to the ARC, and yesterday I had my meeting concerning my simulator, and of course it was rejected. But I even talked with you on the phone, and I told you one of my fears was that I was going to have to pay up front the $75 inspection fee, have the exception turned down, and have that fee not returned, and that's exactly what happened. I believe it's unfair, it's unjust. It's bad enough that I believe that my liberties, my God-given liberties, have been violated because I stupidly signed a contract that I didn't read. Be that as it may, I cannot win this case in a court of law because of legal precedent, but there's a higher court of law that I will make my appeals to. Thomas Jefferson said this. He said, can liberties of the nation be secure when we have removed the conviction that these liberties are a gift of God? They are not to be violated, but with wrath. right? And so, be that as it may, my only recourse to get my liberties back is to sell my house and move out of the Pines, and I'm more willing to do that. But this $75 fee, as it says on the contract that I signed with the ARC, it says the following. It says, provide information requested below along with a $30 filing fee and a $75 inspection fee, all right? Site plan showing proposed location and appropriate screening on the RV, sign and submit to CPI department. RVs cannot be used as living quarters. I did that. When I asked for my $75 back, I was told that it's not refundable. So, okay. So I'm here to say, to ask the board, you need to correct that. If that's the case, you need to correct that because it's unfair. It's like pouring salt into the wound, and I'm here to object to that. And as far as the
I will look into that, okay?
okay, as far as the yacht club, the $2.5 million, I'm totally against it. I'll do all I can to defeat that as well.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, again, we'll have public comments at the end. I'd like to review the agenda for a minute and make sure that we're on track here. The County Commissioner's report will not be written because we have the honor of having Commissioner Busick here today, so she can give her own report. Here, you get it. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm still on the agenda, yeah. Okay, Pete, you have a comment on the agenda?
Yeah, I do. Tom, we have one addition to the, I'd like to propose one addition to the agenda, and that is the result of the ARC meeting yesterday. There was one ARC violation matter. Tom, I didn't know whether you wish to, that's not a specific item on the agenda. You have down under your general manager report CPI violation, but we are looking for board action on that today. Is that correct?
If it hasn't been, if it has, we haven't had time to review it, I really don't think we ought to put it on the
It's the
agenda.
same one we had last meeting and deferred. It's the rubber neighbor.
Okay, then that's why it's on there. in
Yeah,
case
but
somebody-
we deferred it and suggested it go back.
That's why it's
to
on
CPI.
there as an agenda item in case it's a repeat of the same one.
It is a repeat of the
Okay,
same one that we had last
then
year.
we'll put that on.
I propose we add that to the agenda and take action on that, having had it deferred
Okay.
from last month.
All right, we'll put that on. Now, what I also propose is, if you see under new business, the last thing down there, it's really indented under, it's called Planning Commission Request Burbage Property Rezoning. It's really process update, which is a typo. It should be to the left of that, but it is a separate topic. Now, since we have here to discuss his property up at the Route 90 area, I would like to move discussion up to follow him because we're talking about the same general type of thing, okay? That will keep us focused on track. Without objection?
Without objection.
Okay, then we'll move that up also. Any other comments on the agenda? Yes, Marty?
We're taking this planning commission request, the Burbage property, and we're moving it up underneath Northgate Medical Complex?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Fine.
Any other changes to the agenda? All right, then, without objection, the agenda is approved. I want to discuss the approval of the minutes for the April 23rd special meeting. Are there any recommended changes to those minutes? Yes.
I'm sorry. I do have several minor corrections to the minutes.
Okay.
If you would like, each one I think has, want me to just
Well, if you want to make any changes, we got to address them.
Okay, on this April 23rd board meeting, the first in my packet, it's a minor thing. It says design and building options. Everything is design and build options.
Design build options.
On the second page of those same minutes, under the golf management paragraph, I believe the word in there in the third line, or should be of, continuation of in-house management.
Right. Okay.
These are minor
So
technical.
then, without objection, and those changes, we'll approve those minutes? They're approved, okay? The next minutes are the regular May 19th minutes.
Yes, there are two typos in that, and I can give them to Phyllis.
You give them to Phyllis?
You know,
There's a-
those.
Yeah.
I don't know if it matters.
Well,
It doesn't matter to me. The agenda was amended to include action on a fire damaged property at 10 Wharf Court, never happened. I sent that in by email and then we still got it in there. We did discuss the property at the end of the meeting, but the agenda was not modified. Not by my reviewing the
agenda-
video and,
The agenda was included to discuss, was it to discuss?
yeah.
Yeah, just change that to discuss to action.
Where are we?
On the fire damage at 10 Warren.
May 19th minutes,
May 19th minutes. We'll give you those.
we'll give you those
We'll give you those
later. Don't worry.
changes. Okay, then,
And then-
so then without, any other changes on that, then without objection, we'll correct those. And then the last one is the special meeting. Any changes on that? Are they just typos, or they, okay, then they'll be just typos, and without objection, all those minutes are approved, okay? Now we'll move to the Northgate Medical Complex. And I guess I'll make some preliminary statement here. This property, no, I won't. I'll just let Mr. Gillis speak for himself, okay?
You ready for us?
I am.
Good, good. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our presentation this morning. And we'd be more than happy to answer any questions as we're going along or afterwards or whatever. Bob Hand is with me this morning to make sure that whatever I tell you is accurate and correct. So please interrupt me if I'm saying something that's not exactly correct.
Would you identify yourself
Yes.
and your company for the record?
Yes.
It's going to be on tape, and people are going to be watching this.
Very
There's a lot of interest in this.
Okay, good. I'm Palmer Gillis. I'm with Gillis Gilson Incorporated. We are proposing, and this is Brad Gillis. He's a commercial realtor with Sperry Van Ness. He happens to be my younger brother. And Bob Handy's our consultant, and work with him in land planning. We are the purchasers of the 22 acres of the north gate of Ocean Pines. It's contiguous with the pond. It's directly across from the shortstop facility. My involvement with this property began in 2003, believe it or not. As a developer, I play two roles. We're a commercial builder. We're also a developer. And when we do development projects, we typically only do medical offices as developers. We did the Berlin Main Place, which we started in 1992. We're currently developing the Berlin Professional Center, which is on the corner of Franklin Avenue, Route 113. We have started the Berlin Main Place, which is on the corner of 818, which is Berlin Main Street and Route 50. We have the Woodbrook Medical Center in Salisbury, which for the developers, maybe you all have seen, that's on Route 50. Another project in Salisbury, which is a very current project, is East Park Professional Center. Very similar in size to what we hope to be the build-out for this, which is about 80,000 square feet in the total build-out. We've done multiple projects in Salisbury, Easton, Seaford, Pocomoke, around the lower shore. I'm a lower shore resident, and I try to stay within easy travel distance to where the projects are. We have commissioned Becker Morgan Company to do a bird's eye view, which is what you're seeing scanned. That building there represents approximately 20,000 square feet. Having been involved in this project since 2003, 2004, we recognize some of the obstacles and the issues that we've been involved with. So we've been a little bit slow coming to you guys because we want to make sure that what we told you was the accurate information from the regulatory agencies as what we know them today, subject to change, obviously, as the regulatory agency process changes. We've met with the Planning Commission staff. We've met with the environmental folks. We've met with Department of Transportation multiple times on each of those. So what we have presented here today is what we're going to call Phase 1, which is a 20,000 square foot medical office complex. We were successful with retaining the zoning for this type of classification in the last comprehensive plan, and we are inherently legal to proceed with what we're going to call Phase 1 again, which represents this building. This building represents off of an axis. There's a center patient drop-off, which is on the opposite side of the view you're seeing right now, and then a central lobby where you can disperse between the different practices that would be involved in this. We have had a lot of interest over the years. As you know, again, my genesis of this in 2003, 2004 was a result of Berlin Professional Center, which some doctors wanted to be placed in closer to proximity to the patient base, which is Ocean Pines. And therefore, that's our involvement. Mr. Hand, excuse me, has prepared a site plan, and I'm going to call this Phase 1, and then the hopeful Phase 2. This site plan represents what is being shown up on the building right now. Tom had mentioned that there was on a previous site plan there was another building over here. We actually, with a septic system, which we don't want to use because I don't typically do septic systems. With a septic system, we can have enough capacity to develop 30,000 square feet. So in one scheme that we had, one drawing that we had, we did have another 10,000 square feet, but we are only planning on starting with 20,000 square feet or less. So this represents this building on the site. Mr. Hand has located the shortstop facility and the covered pumps over here. We are utilizing the existing entrance, which will be converted to a right-hand turn in and a right-hand turn out, very similar to the pavilions, which is just down the street. This is what we believe that we can have approved in today's environment through the county. Are there any questions from anyone so far? Recognizing that this, in my opinion, is not the optimum use for this project. We have always been successful with working with neighborhoods and communities. We would like to request from the citizens of Ocean Pines access to certain portions of it. And what I mean by that, this represents what I would call the revised traffic pattern. And this is not quite as easy to see as I'd like it to be, but I think each of you have had the opportunity to review this on a one-to-one basis, I believe, because I left some of these drawings. I think Bob dropped some of these same drawings by. What this represents is using the existing entrance off of 589, but it also represents kind of a crescent-shaped access road that would go to Ocean Parkway, following pretty much the contour of the existing stormwater management pond. I guess it's not a stormwater management pond, it's just a, yeah, it's a ornamental pond, for lack of a better word. So we are wanting to circumnavigate the pond on the southeast corner of it, and that would provide, I just won't take this off.
Because it doesn't show the intersection there.
Sorry about that, guys. What we are proposing to do in consideration of our written requests is to actually build the community a new bridge. We recognize that in order to fully develop, our success is your all's success, and in order to make this project more viable, we would like to propose at our expense that we would improve the North Gate Bridge. Let me try to describe what that means. The entrance coming in currently has an existing one lane of access. We would widen that to 2 lanes. So the entrance to North Gate would have 2 lanes. I think Tom has had a desire to have some type of ornamental or decorative feature there. We were open to consider something like that to improve beyond. You guys have done a nice job in the last couple of years with the pavers and the landscaping, the signage and things like that. But actually improve that a little bit farther. On the north side of the bridge, the existing bridge, once again we were looking at expanding that to 3 lanes. So there, when you come to the existing entrance, when you come to the existing entrance, exit of the North Gate, you would have 2 lanes that would exit onto 589 and be controlled by the stoplight, and then 1 lane that would be a right-hand turn lane, and we would widen that all the way back to Dawn Isle Court to improve the access to the bridge. It would, at that point, replace the bridge. It would provide compensation for replacement of the bridge. Any questions so far?
You said 2 lanes turning
5
left?
lanes total. Be 2
Right.
lanes coming in
Even though it's only a 1-lane road going left currently.
and left. There would be, coming from 589, there'd be 2 lanes coming in.
No, I got you. When you're leaving Ocean Pines and you're
Right.
turning left,
Yes.
You have 2 lanes.
Yes.
So
yes.
Where's the merge point to bring them
Well,
down?
there's enough width, and we've confirmed this with State Highway Administration, there's enough width for us to generate the improvements to 589 that would actually widen it, that would allow for that 2 lanes to travel north. It would merge, I'm sure you guys have been over there by the Francis Scott Key where you have 2 lanes turning in. You have 2 lanes turning in on 611. So it would be a very similar detail to those conditions if you can get that kind of
So
concept.
you would widen 589?
Yes. Yes. In addition to that, we've also developed this again with State Highway Administration so that there's width for the future widening of 589 when that happens. But basically, Bob, yeah, this is the delineation along here. Bob, to refresh my memory, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but with 589, our improvements go basically up to the. You remember what we discussed with Wayne Snowden and
Our improvements go up to where that culvert is, which is just on the very edge, right there. That
Here?
Yep,
Okay.
existing culvert.
So there, we will be making improvements for 589, widening it, getting the lanes aligned, and yeah, exactly. So the 2 lanes will be supported and have a place to merge together, or turn right onto Route 90 to go west.
Gotcha.
So anyway, that's kind of the overall concept. Again, our success on this project would be your success because we're needing to generate more square footage. We don't typically, we do build medical offices, but we're trying to develop a medical complex. In this facility, in the vision over 10 to 15 years, it would have multiple practices in there from physical therapy to medical MRI imaging, to CT scans, to the whole gamut. And you can kind of look at some of the projects we've developed over the years, over the last 25 years of medical office complexes, and sort of get a general idea about the diversity of practices that are in those complexes. So that's the overall plan. What I'm asking from you guys this morning is officially, and I think I have put this in writing, I just noticed this morning I have a typo on here, but we're asking for annexation for phase 2. We know that would be subject to association fees, and we also know that would be subject to a referendum. We are asking for access to Ocean Parkway, very similar, actually a lesser condition, substantially lesser condition to the South Gate where you have a 4-way stop. Just so you know, if you do drive to Salisbury and look at East Park Professional Center, the main entrance to East Park Professional Center comes right off of a neighborhood street. And actually, the only thing I've heard from the neighborhood so far has been thank you, because now they have a what they call a boutique pharmacy and the different practices that are there. So if you have any concerns about traffic issues coming from this facility with the multiple points of access, meaning the right-hand turn in, right-hand turn from 589, we do have a project very similar to that in Salisbury that is almost very similar in size and nature. I'm not advocating access from Dawn Isle. What we are advocating is from Ocean Parkway. So our opinion is that the traffic from this medical complex is typically non-competing with neighborhood traffic, meaning it's typically 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and your neighborhood traffic has a tendency at the peak times be on weekends and more on nights. That's what we've experienced.
You say you're not advocating input from Dawn Isle, but if you're coming from North Access, yeah. If you're coming from anywhere in North Ocean Ponds, then you come down and we've got our improved bridge, and you make a left turn on the improved bridge, and then you exactly how to get to your facility.
This. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at the drawings ahead of time. This is a road that Serpent navigates.
Okay, so you're coming in from prior to the bridge. Okay,
yes.
I
think you might have even sketched it one day or something similar.
Actually, yeah. Well, I'm just
the simple logical way is the simple logical way to approach this. I think so. Yeah, this would be 2-way traffic here on this road.
Okay.
And again, I'm not advocating access off of Dawn Isle at all. just what we would
Just
prefer
off
to
of
do.
Ocean Parkway. so-
Exactly. What we would plan on doing is proposing an earthen landscape berm that would go along between the roadway and Dawn Isle neighborhood.
So Ocean Parkway would be widened, itself would be widened up to past that point.
Yes.
Such that a left turn lane would
Yeah, this
exist.
section of Ocean Parkway right here will be
Yeah.
improved.
Yeah, so there actually would be a left-hand turn lane into this road.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't compete with or block the additional traffic. Now, one of the questions that was asked of us is, what if, since the county just took over the bridges, excuse me, please don't disrespect it when I say this term, but I would consider it to be somewhat monopoly money, meaning that we would take the valuation that we would agree on, and if the county and or the state were contributing to this bridge, we would in turn make that equivalent amount usable for Ocean Pines. If that does everybody understand what I'm saying on that?
I think so. In other words, there's, if a the state sends
Funded.
money, funds it, there still will be, as we understand it, an Ocean Pines contribution.
Yes.
And what you're saying is that you will take care of that Ocean Pines contribution.
Yes, we will take that equivalent dollar amount and let Ocean Pines utilize it for whatever they would want, I suppose. What I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to get at, if the state end or the federal government or the AURA funds or county comes in and builds this bridge this way, the monies that I would save on that would go towards Ocean Pines. It's your-
State funds have been a little problematical lately. But you're saying that you're going to build, if you put in the development, you're going to build that bridge?
Yes.
No matter what?
Yes, well, we have to build it to county and state standards.
Of course.
However. Yes, sir.
I'm not sure I missed something, but how does this help people coming out of the medical complex who want to go south on 589?
Well, that's a good question because that's
There's
been,
no left turn provision there yet that I've heard of.
well, if you're coming north on 589 and turning into this complex, your exit, and that's what I was kind of talking to the State Highway Commission about, is that that's a safety issue in my opinion. But your exit would be off of Ocean Parkway at the controlled intersection and come back south.
So anybody wanting to go south would have to make that big circle around.
Well, it's not huge, but it's that you would have to
A circle through that.
You'd have to leave this point here and enter Ocean Parkway and then go along through Ocean Parkway.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Has anybody spoken to the property owner, Mr. List, there in the corner, before he reads about this in the paper?
Any of these properties?
Well, I think the most concerning one would be Mr. List right on the.
Right. And again, I refer to the project in Salisbury called East Park. I probably spent a year in that neighborhood, working through the neighborhood. I have not contacted any of these folks at all. My door is wide open, I'm easily accessible, and actually, as it turns out, it's kind of funny because you mentioned that, because some of these neighbors back here actually were there the day of the auction. And that day, and I'm not trying to say this because it's self-serving, but that day they seemed supportive of this idea. But I haven't spoken to any of those folks since that day. But I have not spoken to any of these folks along here at all.
The theme for this use is transitionary. So you have a major highway, traffic, you don't want a house on the highway. So have a professional or medical use here. And then if you notice on this drawing, it says forestation to be retained. So this is actually acting as a buffer area.
Right.
This has absolutely no effect on my house in South Ocean Pines. I wouldn't even know it's there unless I need to go to the doctor.
Right.
I'm just saying that the guy sitting there on the corner who has one of the most nicely landscaped homes. I've
Right.
lived here for 30 years.
Right.
In fact, he's a professional landscaper in the golfing industry. I would knock on his door real quick
Right.
before he reads about this in the paper.
We had to make sure, our main goal was to make sure that what we're telling you is as accurate as information as we can possibly tell you today. So if you guys flatly reject this concept, then at that point, there's, the concern for this gentleman would be lessened, I guess, because the access would be not included. But I do intend to meet with neighbors.
What does phase 2 look like?
Well, we haven't developed phase 2 yet, but phase 2 would be very similar buildings to these. Again, if you look at East Park Professional Center, I don't like Franklin Avenue as much anymore because that was developed back in the early 90s with that concept, but Berlin Main Place, or which only has one 10,000 square foot building on it, or Berlin Professional Center, which is on Franklin and 113, that has about 65,000 square foot of medical office complex. We're intending to, you see this access road this way, this bridge would have to come across the stream there, and that bridge, if you, again, I like to refer to specific things that we've done. This would be sort of an ornamental bridge there itself, similar to what we did over at Berlin Main Place, if you've been to some of the docks over there. It'll be very dressy, so to speak. But these lots here would, at that point, be subdivided into single lots. And one of the concerns that the Planning Commission has is what happens if they keep the zoning as it was, which are requests in the comprehensive plan. We don't, in the projects that we've done before, over the years, we have found that, I'm going to echo what Brad just mentioned, is that the perfect transitionary use from highway to residential is professional office space, and taking that even a step farther, medical office space, because it's non-competing. When you look at this in a residential and you have 80 to 100 or more townhouses or houses or whatever capacity they are, it's going to be very much of an impact to the community, to the neighborhood. So in times past, we found that this, because it's kind of a sleepy community, the medical community, during the evenings and weekends, that it makes a perfect transitionary use. And the fact that the buildings are going to take a residential tone and a seaside type tone, make a perfect transitionary use. So I'm going to say in almost all cases, the medical centers that we've developed have been directly next to a neighborhood. The only one I can think of that doesn't is the one we have in Easton right now. Yes,
I have
sir.
a question. What about security lighting? I don't see anything up there.
Well, security lighting.
Security lighting.
Obviously, there's a lot of like nighttime and daytime activities sometimes because the lights gets dark around 4 o'clock at night during the winter months, and people come into work early sometimes because the staff comes in earlier. This will be a fully lit parking lot and a fully lit building.
So what will be the impact upon the ambiance of Ocean Pines, which does not have any lights?
That's a good
Night
question. I hope that this represents a good entrance to Ocean Pines, a very professional, well-tailored facility.
The facility looks great. No problem with that. However, when you start putting lighting up, I might as well be back up in the city.
Right. Well, I mean, what the lights that we've done, again, I want to encourage, actions speak louder than words. Please take a look at our projects that we've had already. We use a shoebox type light. It's a directional light, and it sheds light right on the parking lot. It does not broadcast to the general area. If that is an issue with any type of neighbor that comes up, we will definitely address it, or anybody, we will address it. But the light, for lack of a better word, is a task light. It lights only the area that needs to be illuminated, and it does not broadcast up, or it doesn't broadcast behind. So you will see this facility lit, but it won't be intrusive to the neighborhood. It will be a different, it will be a different ambiance, for lack of a better word, when you're approaching the North Gate. That's a legitimate question. I tell you the truth, and again, I hate to keep referring to East Park Professional Center, but the neighborhood there was nothing but trees and shrubbery and overgrown weeds. And the kids were actually in those woods having parties, and there was couches back there and an old abandoned car. It was a mess, and the neighborhood was having more problem with that. And I would encourage you to, again, I'll give you names and phone numbers if you like. The neighborhood was better off with this than they were with the existing conditions, because it deterred kids from vagrancies and on the areas.
The lighting you're describing almost sounds like landscape lighting.
Well, it is on a pole, but it's not a 30 or 40 foot pole. It's probably a 20 or 25 foot pole. So the pole, like again, if you just imagine a shoebox and it's lit underneath, it doesn't broadcast light around it, it broadcasts light underneath of it. But again, that is a part of the planning process, which will be a site lighting plan as we move forward with planning and zoning. So this is a little bit challenging because we don't know, how receptive the board and the community is going to be to this project. So we've tried to illustrate as best we can, but we will comply and work with the neighborhood as best we can.
And what does the berm do in terms of preventing noise to the homes that are in that area?
Well, when you're saying preventing noise, I would suggest that there would be little or no noise at the times you would be concerned, or at all, because you're talking about cars. You're not talking about tractor trailer trucks. You're not talking about loading and unloading with a tractor trailer truck at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning. You're not talking about any of those things. This is a very quiet facility. This is not like you're going to be industrial where you'd have the purveyors coming to a restaurant early in the morning and dumping their loading docks down and, with the equipment and stuff like that. It just doesn't happen in this. So the berm, going back to your question, the berm is, I'm not going to sit here and suggest that it's a sound deadening issue. It's more of an aesthetic issue and a separation between the roadway and the houses there.
What if there is complaints from the people in that area about the sound, about the on-wheel traffic during the day or whatever? Would you then step back in and put up a sound barrier?
I could. I personally don't know that you would like the aesthetics of that, but I
don't know. I'm just,
I definitely consider doing that. We're good neighbors in these communities. I mean, when again, I hate to refer to East Park Professional Center, when a lady called me up and said that the fence had mildew on it, I sent a guy over there with power washer on it and cleaned it up. I mean, another lady wanted the fence extended, and we put in a vinyl fence instead of what the county did, which was a stockade wooden fence, which is already deteriorating.
And also, timeline too. We're gonna have, or we have a vested interest in this community. So in order just to build one building, this is not going to absorb or take occupancy in 12 months. So with that said, we're here for 5, 10 plus years.
I think, John, too, my guess is that the ordinary traffic, and certainly peak pack traffic on Ocean Parkway would far exceed what the traffic on that road would be at any point in time. I mean, based on my experience, a lot of it, unfortunately, with Franklin Avenue, you don't see. I mean, I've never, in the dozen times or more that I've gone to Franklin Avenue, never had to wait to get out of the parking lot. I'd never had more than a car or so in front of me trying to make a turn onto Route 113 afterwards. It's just not there. Now, except, of course, when that school across the road is letting out. Now, that's here. So if you think about noise and traffic, think about all of the people that we have, including Marty, who live on Ocean Parkway. And
I'm glad you referred to that, because at Apple Drugs, that exit onto Franklin Avenue, again, anytime I've been there, I hardly ever see more than one car at that exit. So it's just, I know you've heard a lot of things from a lot of developers, but this is minimalistic impact at all. Plus, it's a good, stable tax base. I mean, in this particular case, you have professionals that want to maintain their grounds. You don't have a diversity of people like it might be with homes, where you have one neighbor that takes care of his property and the other one that doesn't. You have a homogeneous community there that will maintain their grounds. Again, please go look at some of our other projects, older or newer. They are well maintained and lit, secure-wise.
Would you address your sewer, water, and wastewater plan?
Yes. Currently, we've met with, just drew a blank. Bob Mitchell. Bob Mitchell, I'm sorry. We've met with Bob Mitchell. There is capacity.
Who is Bob Mitchell?
Bob Mitchell is with the
Environmental
programs of Worcester County. So, Bob, go ahead and explain what we've done with Bob Mitchell and environmental programs.
Well, we met with Bob Mitchell and Ed Tudor and Rita Campbell and discussed the situation as it relates to sewer. There is excess capacity in the plant for Ocean Pines. There are a number of EDUs that are controlled by the county. There are a number of EDUs that are controlled by Ocean Pines. They're not owned by, but they're controlled by. And what we've discussed with Bob Mitchell is that we would pursue allocation of the EDUs that the county has. And I believe the number of EDUs was 12 to 15. which would be enough to do our first phase. Well, it'd be a little bit more than to do our first phase. So we are going to apply to the county. We wanted to meet with Ocean Pines first to be quite upfront with you with what processes we are going through with the county. But the next step would be to file for amendment of this sanitary service area for Ocean Pines. And that would go through a public hearing process with the Planning Commission and the county commissioners. So that's where we stand. We're pursuing the sewer option. We would have to expand or extend sewer lines into the property. We have met with the Department of Wastewater Services to see how that would be accomplished. It's not going to be a significant issue to make that connection, but we have looked into that. So that's where we stand with the sewer.
That would do for phase one.
How many more do you use for the next phase?
Well, the good news with Worcester County is they recognize the fact that the state of Maryland Department of Environments are 1,000 to 2,000% off from reality. So that's the good news, and most municipalities locally recognize that. So I think the total that we calculated was somewhere around 30 to 40 EDUs on the total build-out.
For the total
For
project?
the total project, right. We're currently using, and the regulatory bodies are accepting, a .09 or a 0.1 gallons per square foot per day. The reality is the last 25,000 square foot building we just did in Salisbury is using a .03. The state of Maryland shows a .62 gallons per square foot per day. When you do that math all the way out, it's thousands of percent off. So the good news is, based on factual data, most regulatory agencies recognize that the state data is way, way off. Not even close.
Okay.
So going through the list here, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what's the financial impact upon Ocean Pines? You said that, we'd obviously be giving up some land there.
You would
The
give
road.
us,
Yeah, the road.
you would still own the land. You would give us a right of way to that.
Right.
When you're saying the financial impact, I don't know of any
Well-
financial impact other than bringing in association dues. Correct me.
And what would that amount be?
Whatever
Additional?
the due structure is, Tom and I have reviewed that. I can't even tell you.
It was at 80,000 square feet, it'd be,
It was probably 75 cents a square foot or something like that. is
yeah,
what
it
it was rated
was
to,
about
something like
that. Somewhere in
that.
the neighborhood, about $80,000 in addition.
So $50,000 to $75,000 a year, maybe something like that.
I mean,
The road, obviously, if we put a road through there and it's a county road, then if county ever gets money, we'd get fund for that. But the roads, the parking aprons, the administrative area, if it's annexed, we have to make sure we clarify that the people who own those companies there
Maintain that.
take care of their roads and not
Yes,
us.
I agree with that.
The parking.
Again, going back to.
But that has to be clarified in the agreement.
Right, going back to Berlin Professional Center, and I don't know how it's managed now, but when I was managing that, because they've hired their own management company, but we were contributing to the Franklin Square Townhouse Complex on a regular basis for a maintenance fund for their road. So I agree, that's a good point.
We'd have to
Right.
clarify that.
We do intend to keep this back area as open as we possibly can. I mean, there's about an acre of land back here, but quite honestly, to get to that acre of land, it would not be economically feasible to get to that. We have had discussions with a nonprofit that would be an extremely potential low-impact user, more residential than anything else, that we would actually donate that to. But for the discussion purposes today, we do not intend to use this for our own financial benefit at all.
The other phases will go to the right as I'm looking at the
It's
page?
basically the development area is here.
Okay.
So it's parallel to Carthage and 589. This area right here is pretty much going to be open area. That's the plan.
when you, again, you gotta kind of think long-term down here. If we put the road in there and you say you end up giving that partial back there to a nonprofit for low, what would they be doing with it?
Well, again, I don't know that I can even, it's so far down the road, I don't even know that-
Understood, but I mean,
Right.
once the road is in, the access is there, and you give it up to someone else, well, we would probably have no
No.
say in it.
No, if that's a condition, then that idea would go away. I think you would find that idea extremely compatible, but if it's not, then it goes away.
In other words, any agreement, we would have veto power.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I think that's important,
That's
that,
fine.
you know,
It's not worth it to me. I'm not gonna, if I did it to a nonprofit, it would be a gift. It would not be a money-making thing at all.
And I understand that.
Let it have veto power.
Let me sort of summarize this if I can. Summarize and clarify and confirm. You're asking for us to annex that land, which includes dues to us, it
Yes.
includes we provide police protection, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're asking for access through our property on that road that goes up and left and right turn
Yes.
capability on that. And you're also asking for us to, I want to make sure I use the words right because it's in doubt, the EDU issue, to yield control or agree to the concept so that the county would eventually approve whatever that is.
Yes.
Which could be as many as 20 or 30
Yes,
EDUs that we
additional from what-
control or have, okay?
Yes,
All right.
you got it.
And in turn, you're giving us the new road, you're giving us an expansion of the bridge to 5 lanes,
Yes.
and you're giving us, which is really not giving us, but you're agreeing to expand 589, to accept that traffic in the interim until 589 is fully expanded.
Yes.
And that's similar to that in Pennington Commons. Coming out of Pennington Commons, you go south, you'll see those access roads going into same kind of thing,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Okay. And what you're really doing here, though, is you're asking for our blessing of this concept so you can proceed. Isn't that right?
My success is your success. So for me to go beyond the drawing that I just showed you a few minutes ago, which is phase 1, which is 20,000 square feet, maybe up to 30,000 square feet, I need these amenities of Ocean Pines. So I'm hopefully trying to make it as mutually beneficial to ourselves. Our economic success is your economic success. And those things you just mentioned to me are things that are critical to making this project more than 20 or 30,000 square feet.
Right, but so you're asking for our blessing.
Blessing.
And to give you our blessing, we're going to have this presented to the membership
Yes.
for their in a public hearing. We're going to
Yes.
have to have a referendum.
Yes.
And can you give me an idea of the time frame you'd like us to come back to you and say, hey, we're going to do this?
That's going to be kind of up to you. And one of the reasons Bob mentioned it earlier, we've been kind of laying back on the approval process with Worcester County is we didn't want to have an off the record and in your face kind of thing to this board. We are aggressively pursuing the first 20,000 square feet, which we showed on the other drawing, which needs no action from Ocean Pines. So as far as that goes, I mean, I'm considering the fact that the first phase, if I'm really lucky and I'm able to get things moved along, it's at least a year, but probably closer to 2 years in reality before a shovel can even go in the ground.
Okay, but I think I heard you say you're going to proceed with phase 1 regardless.
Yes, we don't need at that point.
Because you're going to use this, whatever EDUs they'll give you, and
Yes, we have
you'll
access.
use for traffic pattern right in
Yes.
and right out.
Yes. Is this the drawing that we had shown right here?
Yeah. That's important to know.
That we do have, huh?
That's important for us to know.
Right, I mean, so I don't want anybody to think that we're doing anything deceitfully or behind your back, anything like that. We are pursuing phase 1, which is 20,000 square feet, with or without Ocean Pines. And that's not meant to be an arrogant comment, it's
Well,
just a
understand,
fact.
yeah.
There is one other point that I'm asking for that we haven't mentioned yet. This pond right here, we would like to make it, obviously this is the front door, this is the entrance, this is the aesthetics to the medical part. We would like to have access to this pond for the purposes of stormwater runoff. For your all's perspective, you won't see any change, but it's a technical thing that we would need to make an agreement with Ocean Pines. If there's anything that's going to happen to that, I promise you it will be better. It won't be worse than what you have as far as the aesthetics go. I guess aesthetics are always a matter of opinion, so I guess I'd be a little bit reluctant to say that. But yes, our intention is to ask that we have access to that. Yes.
We're making an assumption here that this is absolutely, positively has to go to referendum. In my mind, it does, but we've seen, I guess my question is Palmer Gillis willing to pay the cost of the referendum?
I would believe that would be a development cost we'd have to consider. I don't know what does that cost before I...
$15,000?
$1 million?
Between $10,000 to $15,000.
Yeah, I think that would be, I'm assuming that it would be a standalone referendum, or it would be with some other
It would be a
issue.
stand.
So we would either pay for it or pay our prorated share of that. Is that fair?
Sure.
Yeah.
So if it's 2 items on there, we obviously want to pay 50%. If it's 1 item, we pay 100%.
Good question.
Good question.
Just
Any other questions?
for my own clarity, this has or has not, this road concept has or has not been approved yet by the county?
We haven't asked for their approval yet.
Okay.
The only thing we're going to ask for immediately is the drawing we just showed, which was the right-hand turn in, right-hand turn out, just like the pavilions down the street.
But the state's given their
Yes.
blessing on
Yes,
589.
we've met extensively with the state,
Okay.
believe me. And the good news is they've been pretty consistent since I first met with them in 2004. That's the good news.
Yeah, both of those questions are kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, before we go out to a referendum, whether you pay for it or not, I think we would have to see in writing all of the necessary approvals that you would need to make this happen, from the county, the state, wherever.
I would take a couple of years. I mean, quite honestly, depend.
So,
It's, I have
well,
to
it is chicken
present,
and egg, and you know, but
I mean, just the stormwater management plan alone would be substantially different from one to the other. I'd love to be able to do what you're asking me to do, but I don't think you're asking me to do something that's possible.
well, if you're okay, we go
We
out
can
to
give you concepts, and this represents the concept as clearly as we can possibly present it.
So we can make an agreement in principle that if and when all of the necessary,
Right.
things were done.
I think what you would want to do is make sure that whatever we do downstream to the referendum meets with all the state highway and all the necessary regulatory agencies. I don't think we need to make a referendum for every step of the process.
Oh, no, I'm not
But-
talking about that. I'm
Right.
talking about before we go out to referendum. And maybe you're saying it just in different words than that.
I would be planning a different project. To move forward with this from our standpoint, I'm sort of at a fork in the road. And the fork in the road, I can still be approaching the fork in the road come this fall or winter. But somewhere along the line, I'm going to need to make a decision which way to go full tilt. And to be as efficient as possible, I need to make sure that we have some type of consensus from the community. So far, I've received some positive comments, yes.
I'm just going to comment that if we need consensus from the community, there's no reason to delay that and work out all the details later. If there's no consensus, that's a different matter, right? I'm intrigued by the question of do we or do we not need a referendum on this? And how are we going to answer that question ultimately?
Annexation requires it.
Annexation is going to require that. If you're going to charge dues to these folks, the
Okay,
membership.
it's the annexation provision which provides automatic
Does
requirements
it?
of referendum. Okay.
Did
I think so.
Why didn't Christine?
It's the only move, but I don't think it's.
And I think really what answers to Dave's question is you just make it contingent upon the approval of
The
the,
regulatory agencies.
yeah.
Yeah,
We have,
And you put that in the referendum so
that's to be
people
funded up
understand
as
that.
it is.
and before that, we get a real good idea of
Well, I think
whether their approval, they'll be able to supply stuff.
And one of the reasons we've been a little bit slow presenting this to you is we want to make sure that we had as much clarity from the regulatory agencies as we could. One of the hardest jobs I have as a commercial builder is when I get a building permit for something for you, to build something for you, and I'm well into the project, and this inspector comes along and says, oh, you need to do this. And I have to go to you and say, well, that's a $20,000 expense that he just told me about. I hate that part of my job, but it's very complicated to go through the regulatory process.
Okay, is there any objection to opening this up to anybody else in the room that might want to ask him a question from the board?
No objection.
Okay, without objection, we'll do that. Pete, you had a comment?
I just would comment, Bill listed the benefits to Ocean Pines, but one of the things I see as the most significant benefit is access to our membership, our residents of the medical facility much closer than they otherwise might have. And I think that's a great use of that particular piece of property.
Palmer, one other thing. I want to get a sense of at what point we would be asking the membership for any kind of a referendum. You're going to go ahead with phase one.
Yes.
Okay, regardless of what happens, you're
Yes.
going to start applying for permits for phase one.
Yes.
That's a 2-year process before shovel hits the ground.
Yes.
Are you looking for the membership to do a referendum within that 2-year time frame?
I'm
or
looking
once
for
you
it
decide on the other road?
as soon as possible.
As soon as possible.
Yes, I mean, it kind of goes to the response I had to Dave, Mr. Stevens, was that I need to make engineering and design standard changes. I know it wouldn't look like much on this, but I'm sure Bob can rattle off a whole bunch of things that we need to address if this plan or these requests are dead on arrival. If the community doesn't support this, then I've got to make some substantial changes or substantial concept changes. So that's why I'm here today, is hopefully that we can address that sooner rather than later.
The way I see it is that the board needs to come to some kind of conclusion whether you support this. When we do decide that, we need to work with you to make sure the presentation, which should be given by you, is clear, very, very clear.
Yes.
And then we have the public hearing and we present it. You present it and the board sits there because we're supporting you. If we're not going to support you, we should just tell you up front.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're, you know. And then, and again, if I were in your shoes as the guy that's spending the money and we're looking forward, you're, as you said, you want this done as soon as reasonably possible so you can continue your planning. I mean, it makes sense. So that doesn't mean we have to jump through the hoop, but we need to respond to your initiative here, okay?
I think we're bringing a great asset to this community, and we've done a lot of medical office spaces over the years. I mean, approaching 750,000 square feet of medical offices. That's a lot of medical offices, more than anybody I know of.
Okay.
You know, of a big area.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any
I
questions?
have one more question.
Yeah.
Where does AGH fit into this? Do you need them to
No.
work on this?
No.
Does it they have no impact whether?
I'm moving forward with or without them. I am trying to, because I am a local resident and I'm a resident of Worcester County, I am trying to give them every opportunity to have the best opportunities that they can. Because I worked with them a few years ago with the Taylor Bank site with the Ocean Pine Zone several years ago. So I know there's a need there, but there's also a need for medical offices in this community. Again, we're not building a medical office, we're building a medical office complex.
Okay.
But you could work with PRMC or AGH.
I know the political sensitivity of the reality.
I'm just saying.
No, I'm going on record with that. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I'm getting Atlantic General, I want to work with Atlantic General Hospital as my preferred resource.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, just a series of clarifications for me. Phase one is that now
No.
or not? And would it be annexed in?
Yes.
As well?
Yes.
So the request is phase one and phase two
It's for the entire parcel.
to be annexed?
Yes, sir.
So it isn't just phase two?
And if you go ahead with phase one without our approval,
It won't be subject to the.
no, but if you do, and we haven't approved yet, it will eventually, if we approve it, be
Yes.
annexed. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so phase one is, okay. So
Yes.
you-
The
okay.
entire complex.
In doing some of these developments in other areas, you can, looking at the security issues overnight and trying to reflect the lighting issue, some places put their lights on timers and turn them off
Yes.
at like 9 o'clock at night and don't turn them back on.
Yes.
So you could obviously do that to
Yes.
resolve.
Typically, our protocol is we have a photocell on, time clock off, and it'll be up to the doctors, and so some of them have some specific needs, like a family practice might come in earlier, or a dental practice might come in earlier, like maybe 7 o'clock. So they have a specific need, and we try to address that specific need for each practice.
Okay. Is there any thought to gate off this road after hours? Because I can envision people using that road to avoid the bridge.
Right. There could be. I don't know that gates and fences, to me, reek of security issues and things like that. I really just don't think that you're going to have a traffic issue here with this. And I'm going to have to prove that to you guys with the traffic
No, it's just
study.
one of the traffic studies ought to look at people avoiding the bridge and using that road as the access to Ocean Pines.
Right.
They're coming up 589, they just jump in there and,
What he's saying is that instead of traveling down 589 and turning into the Ocean Pines, that they would turn in here and go around this way and have to wait for the incoming traffic. Reality-wise, I would be somewhat negative on a gate, but I understand your question, and that probably will happen. It probably won't happen a lot, but it may happen.
You mentioned traffic study.
Yes.
Will that come before or after the referendum?
After. See, the traffic study, the statistical data that the traffic study creates, now I think we may consider doing one this July, but the statistical data that traffic study creates, we actually have raw statistics for what this full build-out would consume, but they're not based on fact. But the statistical data is only good for 12 months. So the question is, when does that, I don't mind doing things once, but I hate doing things twice. the data is only good for 12 months. So I got to be sensitive as to when I do it. I've got to do the study in peak time, which is July and August. So that issue is approaching me. If you guys throw me out on my ear here this morning, then we'll probably not be doing the traffic study for a while. If you are full tilt into this, we'll probably, emphasis on probably, do the traffic study sooner. I do have a proposal from our consultant on that.
Yeah, well, the problem is you go to referendum, it's what information you put in the referendum to let people make up their minds.
I have
And
that
if traffic isn't part of it, then I don't know.
Right, I have the data that's based on the current studies. In other words, there's already that information that exists. What the question would be is, what does a medical center apply to? Basically.
That's the big question.
Okay, other questions from the field?
Who's going to actually own this facility when you're done?
Our plan currently is to subdivide the properties. In the long term, it may be Dr. X or Dr. Y or Dr. Z that owns the land.
So who technically becomes the member of Ocean Pines after that?
The person who buys the property.
It's still...
It stays with the property. It's part of.
Stays with the property.
Yeah, it's like if you bought a parcel in Berlin, it still stays with the property.
Is there an overall management company for the entire project or property or not?
Well, what time? I mean, 20 years from now, 10 years from now, my position's always been pick up the phone and call me, or if I'm not around, call him.
No, I mean...
I actually call him first and then call him.
No, if there are, one of the points you made was it's not like individual homes so that could be cared for. I mean, okay.
Actually...
Who's responsible for the overall property maintenance?
We will hire a property manager, a professional property manager for this facility.
That's the answer to my question.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, are you proposing to replace it?
Yes.
Commissioner Busick.
I don't have a question. I simply have a comment. This was a most informative, impressive presentation. It sounds like a win-win for Worcester County and Ocean Pines. It will certainly increase our economic development opportunities, not only for construction jobs, which I hope you would utilize local construction people here.
A lot more than the state of Maryland.
And also, it will bring technical jobs here. And this is the best use of that property, because certainly we wouldn't want to see, or I wouldn't want to see, a big box store or whatever would be allowed in that particular zoning. I think this would be consistent with working in this residential community. So,
I appreciate your comments, and I want to say publicly, your attendance at all the planning and zoning
every
commissions on the
single one.
comprehensive plan. I'm like, my goodness, this lady has the patience of, I don't know, but I do want to echo a comment. We've placed this building right here front and center because the biggest fear from the planning commission has been, well, if you start back here, you're going to put a big box or a retail or a Wawa or a wine cellar or something like that here. We're not doing that. This is a professional medical office complex.
Okay. Mr. Reynolds.
All things being equal, I mean, everything sounds pretty good, but a couple things jumped out at me. Number one, while we're widening this to 5 lanes, the choke point for people coming this way on Ocean Parkway is at this particular point right here.
Yes.
They don't have a turn lane. I guess you can create one, but the widening stops before people make the turn.
Good point. And that's an accurate point. But if you have more lanes for them to go up to, then that choke point will be relieved.
I understand. So, and then the people coming out of here, one way or the other, some of them, will be making everybody coming out of here is going to be making a left turn on here.
Not necessarily, but a lot of them.
Well, if they're heading out
south
this way, they won't come out on 589. They'll have to come make the circle and come out.
Yes.
We've already got somewhat of problems here. Now, widening these lanes is going to help, but depending upon the amount of traffic, we may just be creating a larger parking lot here at the times when it is choked. Sort of like putting 10 lanes into Ocean City. All you're doing is making a wider parking lot instead of a longer one, because they're getting to a spot where they can't go any further. But my primary concern is that while we're looking at the benefit to OPA overall, and I think Marty kind of indicated that, these people here, and this person here, and people generally in this area, I think we need to consider the impact on them. They are association members, and I think we have to give those people some serious consideration. But when the board does get into this, what I would suggest you do is look at all possible avenues where Mr. Gillis is. Because, let's face it, whatever the negotiation is, when it's done, it's done. If we don't cover everything, then we're left holding it back on the things that we don't cover. For example, just thinking out loud, there's probably a number of things here that require attention. Perhaps Mr. Gillis be willing to maintain this entire area and the far side of the road for OPA. In other words, come up with a plan for landscaping and whatnot, for not just do something at the bridge, but take this entire property here and have some agreement where he's going to make that look like a dynamite entrance to Ocean Pines and agree to maintain it over time. Just one thing, but they're the kind of things I think the board should consider.
To your points about these neighbors, I'm going to suggest Mrs. Dove or Mr. Farrell. And there are two people that I've worked closely with for years at East Park Professional Center. And they are in actually worse situations than this. But I want to, on my to-do list is meet with the neighbors, because I do that. I go to their homes and meet with them and discuss their concerns and problems, if they.
Have you ever financially compensated people like that?
Well, when you say financially compensated, you know, I don't know to what extent. I mean, have we built a vinyl fence for someone? Yes. Have we done amenities to their properties? Yes.
I mean, cash.
No.
Okay, are there any more questions? Any more comments? Okay, we return to the rules. And any other questions from the board?
Just thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are you looking for anything from us today, or just receive this information?
Just want to think about it.
Okay.
Is there a plan to vote or discuss our...
We're not going to vote today, no.
Gotcha.
No, we'll
Do you mind if I
digest-
listen to the discussion for the next...
No, I thought you might be interested.
Would you?
All right, this topic's over. We'll move to the next one, which is the one about the rezoning case.
We're going to interrupt with this guy.
You want to take a little break?
I just said, I'll be right back. Just
Okay.
Okay, where's that, Bob? Good morning. So far. Well, maybe not. Was that 1 hour?
Let me just summarize here for a second about this rezoning case. The stand down there, that's the area we're talking about down there. It borders onto the Steen yet developed property. And Mr. Burbidge has approached us in the past, just like Mr. Gillis had, about what his intentions are for that 30-acre parcel, okay? In the county comprehensive plan, anybody correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm very generalized here. The county comprehensive plan, it was discussed, the zoning right now is A1, R1 was discussed, C2 was discussed, the commission talked about it, they were split, I think, on it. The county eventually agreed last November, I think it was, that they would retain, or the zoning would be A1.
Correct.
Okay? And that happened last November. What we have here is a simple request by the owner of that property to reclassify that property to C2. Okay? And in order to do that, there's two things that have to happen. Number one, or one of the two things. Number one, the character of the neighborhood has to change from the time that it was reclassified last time, which is November. And number two, they have to be proven that an error was made or a mistake was made in the zoning, okay? And I believe in order to make that happen in this vote, if it comes before the commissioners, I think it has to be a supermajority. Okay, so that's where we are. So Mr. Burbidge, as I understand it, is requesting reclassification to C2 for his property. It's as simple as that. It's not our job here to defend what he intends to do to that or make a presentation in his behalf of what he intends to do to that. If you read this request, he does not state in here what his intentions are. And my understanding of that is because to get that changed to C2, he can't get it changed to C2 stating that he intends to build a medical complex. He must get it approved to C2, so regardless of what his intentions are, the owner of that property can in fact do any of the 12 or so things that C2 authorizes. Okay? So that's where we are. Now what's happened is that as routinely done, the county has asked us, the board, for our recommended position on this, so that when they make up the paperwork and all the positions and give it to the Planning Commission, which is going to be, they meet on 5 August or whatever it is, yeah, 5 August, that's their meeting, and they'll have all that input, including, if we decide to do anything, Ocean Pines' input. Okay, the process then goes from the Planning Commission to the county commissioners. And the county commissioners look at it, and then they help hold a public hearing. And that public hearing, my understanding, talking to Phyllis Winborg, wouldn't go till the fall. And then it goes back to the county commissioners, and they make a decision on whether they're going to change the zoning or not. Is that, in essence, what the process is? Okay, so there's where we are. So we, as a board, need to discuss, are we going to respond to this? And if we do, how do we respond to it? And by the way, the 6th July date is not important. We can have till the 19th of July if we want.
So it could be after the next board meeting.
Yes.
So we have time to think about it.
Yes, we do. And we have time to discuss whether we should be involved. I know I've discussed this offline with a couple of directors. Marty can speak for yourself, I think, but you think we shouldn't have any role in this, so we should turn it over to the process and let all our members go to the public hearing and express their concerns, okay?
So I will speak for myself. I'm more concerned about the minutes to the meeting where we voted to support it the last time.
Yeah, that was, that's history, and...
Well, it may be history, but I've never seen this until today.
Well...
There's documents and meetings here.
What Marty's referring to, for those of you who don't know, is that last May...
Last May and, May.
Last May, the board recommended a favorable consideration of the change of the Burbidge property to C2.
It was a very heavily caveated, I mean, you have to see the actual writing.
but it was basic.
At that point in time, going back to last May, we were approached by Jack Burbidge and Marvin Steen independently for two things. One was to, in the case of Jack Burbidge, to have the zoning go to C2 from the current plans at that time, which were to have it as R1 the correct designation, which was recommended by the planning committee at that time. In other words, the choices at that time looked to be they were going to put a residential community in there to be developed as a residential community, or, as Jack Burbidge proposed, a C2 specifically dedicated to a medical facility. Okay, and that's what's reflected in what was written in the recommendation. Marvin Steen, at that point in time, wanted us to write a confirmation or to basically reaffirm the fact that we supported his development, which they already had done, back during the point in time when the YMCA referendum went out. So that was already history, but he wanted the reaffirmation of that for the planning committee too. Marty's quite correct. We didn't have a formal board meeting on it. Both of those presentations were attended by multiple directors. And to the best of our knowledge, and I find it hard
Would it have been 4 directors or just multiples by 3? Since 4 would be an illegal meeting.
It would have, I don't know, Marty, and I can't remember. And I can't remember, it is my belief that all of these were put in the board members' boxes before they went out. I don't have any record of having sent them out, and I looked as hard as I could to send them out. So I just don't know at that point. But I believe when we're here, as we're here, whether, those have no impact at all now.
None.
They haven't. But what I think the two issues are, the two things we can do, is we can either look back on that, discuss it, consider it, and basically reaffirm what we said there, or we can say that we have no opinion on the matter, or wish to have no opinion on the matter and wish to make no comment. Those are two pretty simple choices.
Well, yeah, and we can also make some assumptions, which are really might be immaterial, but the assumption is, and we have to get the owner of that property in for him to tell us what his intentions are again, which I believe they're the same, to have a medical facility, much similar to what Mr. Gillis is proposing. And then we start getting into politics of which and all that kind of stuff. And that's really beyond what the question is here, as I see it.
And actually, it is which is the better place, I think, is not an issue for us. It's an issue for the county and for others to decide. The question that's simply asked, if we never heard Palmer Gillis, we just blank him from is this zoning appropriate for purpose? And without getting into the details, there are other benefits that could accrue beyond, just as a bridge can be a benefit on the North Gate, there are other benefits that could accrue to ocean fines by doing this. So, that's the discussion.
Well, but if I may just clarify that, the problem is, let's just say if the other owner was in and gave a similar presentation and said, here's what he's going to build, and that's it, that's not the question. The question is there going to be C2? Because conditions could change, the economy could get worse or whatever. The owner could decide, for example, Palmer Gillis could decide in his phase one, he's no longer going to build that medical facility, he's going to build a tattoo parlor.
Well,
He
okay,
could.
and that's a good.
And we have no control over that, because it's already zoned that way.
That's a good point. Okay, now I've been told that in fact what you say, that in fact the zoning could be reissued with a caveat that pins that down to a medical facility. If that's not true, if that isn't true, then it's, I think,
what I've been told,
our involvement is a moot
well,
point.
in preparation for this, I did talk to the head of the planning commission, and I talked to Phyllis Wimbrow, and they said that that's not the case. They said that the case is that you're voting on C2.
C2 is C2.
Period.
Yeah.
Now, I've also had people tell me that we could get the owner of that property to put a deed restriction on there. He can give a presentation, and he can put a deed restriction on there that would say that, but I don't even know if that's legally correct. We'd have to go to an attorney to find out if that's possible.
Right.
My belief is it's not, okay? But that's not for me to say, because I don't really know what I'm talking about, but we can determine that. But if we can't restrict that, and it goes to C2, we have no control as to what we could, what would eventually be.
If we can't restrict it, then that's the question, and it's certainly something you can find out.
Okay, so our dilemma here, our question here is, what do we do? What do we as a board want to do?
Bill, can you explain to all of us what C2 is? How many
It's right here.
Sure, C2, well, just for the benefit of listening, of people here who can't read the thing. C2.
Thank you, Bill, I appreciate that.
Those who don't have the ability to read because they haven't got any paper in front of them.
Thank you for clarification on that.
I didn't mean to insult you reading the bill, even though you are a retired Army officer. C2 is
Well, that's why I needed the guidance from a Marine, okay?
C2 is general commercial district, okay? And these include retail businesses, personal service businesses, restaurants, fast food, convenience store, bars and nightclubs, entertainment, dancing, but not including dry nightclubs. General professional offices, indoor commercial recreation establishments such as bowling alleys, arcades and theaters, doctor's office, clinics for human outpatient medical treatment, bakery, laundry, or dry cleaning, veterinary clinics or kennels, self-service or full-service car washes, funeral homes, body piercing, or tattoo establishments, and commercial parking lots and parking garages. Those are the 12 things that
You can also put motels in there.
Yes,
Neat.
well,
thank you.
Motels are not in this.
Yeah, there.
Okay.
Under certain restrictions to square footage.
All right. But anyway, but that's the general thing we're talking about, okay?
No, I think it's very important that people understand that it isn't restricted just to one thing.
Oh, no.
C2 isn't.
That's right.
C2 isn't.
The question is to whether or not you can further put a deed restriction on it.
I would
It's
not.
another issue.
Once again, I don't have the legal opinion or the legal whatever it is, but basically the problem with saying that is that, let's say I own the property, I get it changed to C2 and my intent's to build a medical facility, but I can't for 5 years, and somebody gives me a big offer who owns a tattoo parlor and wants to buy it from me, they buy it from me and they build their tattoo parlor. So you see, putting these kind of restrictions on things, is by law is not going to be allowed. Now, whether a deed restriction could do that is something I don't know about.
For the sake of the record, you can put an enforceable deed restriction on it as long as it doesn't fail the test of some other federal guideline.
Yeah.
And it's as enforceable as...
Well, I'd like to, I personally believe that, Marty, but I don't know that, and I'd like to have our attorney. So let's just make an assumption. If he could put a deed restriction, do we ask Mr. Burbidge to come in and make a presentation so he can tell us what he's going to do, and then we can support that subject to a deed restriction?
Yeah, and again, I don't think, and it didn't happen the last time, as Mr. Gillis was well aware, we wrote a similar letter for him.
Yeah.
And we didn't endorse one or the other, or say one or the other. Both have advantages to Ocean Pines. The overwhelming advantage of either to Ocean Pines is the use of that property that's next to Ocean Pines for that purpose, as I think Pete's already said. So, I mean, that's our interest, and I think we're not going to be in a position of saying this one's better or that one's better.
We could write down advantages and disadvantages for both. We could do this. For example, if I look at this, I see that the potential here is to be more of a nuisance to more homes in the Burbidge property than it is on the Gillis property, depending what they're going to do. There's no buffer or anything. But at the same time, we don't get a free bridge.
No.
But we do get a road into King George, which may or may not be a plus to the
Right.
neighborhood.
We have got for this Burbidge property.
I got them all, man.
Marvin Steen, who has agreed to provide an emergency egress road out to a certain distance, and Mr. Burbidge has stated, again, he has to speak for himself, to complete that road so that there would be another entrance into the Steen property, and an emergency egress, which is nice, out of Ocean Pines, in case there's an emergency, which someday there's going to be an emergency. It's going to happen someday. But I mean, so there's pros and cons of all this, but once again, that's not the issue. The issue is, do we support the change to C2? That's the issue.
That is the issue, but again, it has to be caveated, and again, why would we support it unless there were pros that went along with the cons?
Is that a better location for a medical facility or not?
Well,
does he need a C2 for a medical location, or can he do that right now under A2?
He cannot do it right now.
No, he can grow chickens.
That's the issue.
He can have chickens. But we can have bare land. Well, again, the action here, I mean, whatever we said before, the action in front of us is to agree whether or not to make any comment as a board to the county relative to this zone.
Which they may listen to or not.
Yeah.
And perhaps we should here, in all fairness, we should have Jack Burbidge come back and talk to us about it.
And we get a legal opinion of whether we can put a deed restriction.
Well, and that, for sure. That is if you can't do that, then it's...
Well, I mean, I'm willing to do all the research and spend all the time you need to do this right. So if we want to ask Mr. Burbidge to come in and make a presentation, I'd be more than happy to do that. We can do that at a special board meeting or whatever you want to do.
We have a special one coming up that is a possibility since we're using it.
We do.
Let's do whatever we have to do to get it right, that's all.
Okay.
Take our time
Then before we act on this, would you call Mr. Burbidge and see if he can't meet us and give us a presentation on Thursday, the 24th of June? And also, we need to get have Mr. Moore give us a legal opinion on whether if the property is rezoned to C2, and if the owner can put a binding perpetual deed restriction to restrict that only to medical centers, that's an important piece of information we have to know.
If I may, perhaps when the first phone call is made to Burbidge, before we invite him to come over and give a presentation, he should be asked if he's willing to put that kind of a
Absolutely.
deed restriction, because if he's
Yeah.
not, I think we can pass on the meeting,
That's a good point, Mark.
or pass on that
So what the-
part of the meeting.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay,
Okay, so Tom's gonna.
so that's what we'll do? Everybody agree to that? Okay, and then,
But in addition to that, it's also up to the members of the association to write their county commissioners as to their own personal thoughts on
That
this.
is correct.
And not lead it up to 6 or 7 of us to say yes, or some of us saying yes, go for C2, and others saying no.
well,
Yeah.
I believe, and this is just me talking now, I'd like to, before we vote to support Mr. Gillis's proposal or anything on this, I believe that Ocean Pines needs to have a public hearing, either in late June or early July, to allow whoever wants to come in on a Saturday morning, come in and make a presentation to us. I think it only takes up our time, and I think before we make that decision, we have an obligation to listen to those people who want to show up and do it.
I think there's 2 distinct differences, though. Number one, Mr. Gillis can proceed with his 20,000 square feet, with or without
He's gonna do
Ocean
that.
Ponds. Okay, and that was a given. The other one, as you said, if we're going to go to referendum, we would in fact have a public discussion with our members. This is somewhat differently because we're not asking to annex anything. As far as I know, we may be asking to build a road, but we don't know that. To me, this is inherent upon our memberships, especially all those impacted down that end, which you saw by the significantly more than what is up this end. If they are in disagreement with this, going from A2, agricultural to C2, they should in fact write both Linda and Judy and the other board members, the county commissioners, and let them know. In their website, they're easily
Well, right,
Yeah,
we could take no position and just encourage our members to show up at the county process. We could do that.
We're inventing
Well,
a step in the
we're
zoning process of
brainstorming
Worcester
here.
County that doesn't exist.
Well, we have one of the county commissioners here. Linda, what would you say would be the best way for our membership to let the county commissioners know whether they're for this or against this? Via the board here, 7 members, who some people have said in this room that we don't have a good pulse sometimes on the community, or the individuals going forward and saying to you all, saying we don't want this, or want to, as the case may be.
Obviously, we just went through a very comprehensive rezoning plan. And Mr. Burbidge is going through the process to ask for an appeal on that. And as you have accurately stated, the zoning, if there is a zoning change, anything can go on there that falls within that category. It does not necessarily, unless you find that this deed restriction could happen. And all the arguments that you gave, the economic times, whether or not there are, if you're going to have a medical complex already at the North Gate, how many other people are going to want to support one at the South Gate? I mean, there are a lot of things that play into this. It's a big jump to go from A1 to C2. Change of the character of the neighborhood or a mistake. And we did not change the zoning for anyone on 589 for several reasons. And as I recall, it was a 5-2 vote on that. And the reasons being, number one, the state has no funding to do any construction work on 589, period. They did a feasibility study. Work on 589 to get people into the slots will be done at Mr. Rickman's expense. So there's not going to be any new changes on 589 to, be of benefit at this point.
It's gonna be tough to get that changed, isn't it?
I would think that if we did this, then we would have to look at all of the people on the right and the left side of the road who will then want to come forward. That's just my opinion. And then we would have to consider, well, if we're going to upgrade his zoning, are we going to upgrade everyone else's zoning for that same reason? It's an interesting question. The people, hardly anybody ever comes to a public hearing. This is something that I would love to see people become more active in. Our latest public hearing, well, we had our legislative sessions, we have them every month, but the one that more people turned out to was the barking dog ordinance. And everyone came out and expressed their view. And this is an opportunity for you to get involved. I respond. Anyone who emails me or calls me gets a response. And I work for you all. It's not my opinion. It's what the people want is how I respond. So I would say that there is a process in place and utilize that process. That's my opinion. Have
Okay.
people that
So
have a
what-
concern come to the public hearing and speak out.
Thank you. What we'll do is we'll just do nothing more than do what we asked Tom to do and see if Mr. Burbidge wants to come in and talk to the lawyer, and that's...
And I think one of the things, as far as public hearings go, some are contentious and have two sides, but a lot of times you see people who have, particular knowledge and a particular point of view going to them and expressing what that is. I think it's important, at least, that the people of Ocean Pines understand what both sides of the issue are. What are the pros and what are the cons? And we don't have to decide which one is which as a board.
Well, we're spending a lot of time on this because we think this is important things, okay? But as far as I'm concerned, this topic is over, we'll move to the next one.
Beautiful.
Okay.
All right.
Next one is the county commissioner's report.
10:30.
And Linda, since you're here, you may give it yourself.
As you know, I generally submit as, did you want me to stand or?
You can do whatever you like.
Where are you comfortable? Forgive my voice, I have laryngitis and have had it for over, going to have to tolerate me. I do have a written report file, and I actually wrote this Friday, so I do have some added information to give to you, but I will just cover the information that is within the report, and that is, as of June 1, the Worcester County Commissioners approved the FY 2010-2011 operating budget of $163,205,811 in appropriations for the coming fiscal year. This reflects a decrease of $10,385,212, or a 6% less than FY10 budget due to a shortfall in revenues and state budget cuts. Even in the face of continuing declines in revenues, the commissioners have stood firm in their agreement to maintain the existing real property tax of 70 cents per $100 of assessed value for fiscal year 2011, which begins July 1, 2010. As promised, the commissioners did not increase the tax rate, which has been in effect since fiscal year 2006. Item 2, the commissioners unanimously adopted resolution number 10-18, adopting policies and procedures for adjustments to water bills. The new water bill adjustment policy formalizes the procedure used for many years to adjust inflated water bills because the customer had a significant water leak that did not enter the sewer system, such as an underground service line, and proposes a policy for adjusting bills for water leaks entering the sewer system that is negatively affected as direct result of the adopted conservation rates. The revised policy would help protect customers with no prior incidents of high water usage from paying a higher tier rate of excessive water use caused by documented leaks. Item 3, Worcester County Recreation and Parks invites the public to the first Flick and Afloat event of 2010 summer season, which takes place at the Bishopville Park on Friday evening. That's this Friday at June 18. Admission is free for this entertaining, family-friendly film, Under the Stars, using the big outdoor cinema screen. You can enjoy refreshing ice cream floats for just $3, popcorn for $2. You can bring your own refreshments and have a picnic with your family. Festivities begin at 7:45. So bring your blankets, your lawn chairs, settle in for your favorite spot, and park and enjoy the music and good times. The movie will begin at dusk, which is approximately 8:45. Shallow Park will play host to the second Flick on the Float, and that will be Friday, July the 9th. Now, the one added thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, the Worcester County Commissioners on June 3rd sent a letter to the United States Postal Service Consumer Affairs Manager. And as many of you probably know, there was an area mail processing feasibility study that has been conducted, and they had a meeting in Easton last evening. And while we sent a letter to convey Worcester County's support of Talbot County and discouraging this change, we also felt that it was important to have a physical presence at this. And before I talk about that, this area mail processing is the consolidation of mail processing operations from one or more postal facilities to other facilities to improve the operational efficiency and/or service. It was initiated to evaluate the transfer of mail processing from Easton, Maryland Processing and Distribution Center with those performed at the Baltimore, Maryland Processing Center. The initial results of the study, the business case for consolidation. This study is currently in the States Postal Service headquarters and its area office and is subject to change. And from the public meeting will be considered for a final decision. Now, these are the documents that the States Postal Service, and I only have one copy, but I will give these to you to photocopy and put in your file. Now, I'm not going to read the entire letter by the county commissioner, but I'll give you some of the highlights of that. And I will tell you that there were at least 500 people there last evening. There were people from Governor O'Malley's office, Secretary Sanchez and Isidore Patoka spoke on behalf of Martin O'Malley. Richard Colburn, who is the state senator for the area of the Dorchester County area, Jeannie Hadaway, and Cardin's office, and Kulski's office also spoke. And they were all of having this distribution center and additionally, they all spoke in favor of having more public input. And so this meeting in Easton last night was the only meeting that has been planned. However, I can tell you, I was there till late in the evening and heard every presentation given to the United States Postal Service was that the people need to have input. And I would not be surprised to see that there will be in Ocean City want to see this change in Easton. And so, just to give you the highlights of the commissioner's letter, we advised we were opposed to the proposed transfer of the mail processing operations from Easton to Baltimore. We felt as though the citizens and the businesses of Worcester County will inevitably suffer by this proposed consolidation, and that some of the reasons would be the many hundreds of thousands of visitors coming to the Eastern Shore to visit Ocean City would present some traffic problems, and it would add hours of driving time for this mail to be shipped to Baltimore and to come back to the shore. Such delays would affect the mail processing and delivery times, putting the Eastern Shore at a disadvantage for businesses and commerce, and that We have a 16.5% unemployment rate here in Worcester County, and we can ill afford any further negative impacts to our businesses. We join Talbot County and their concerns for the loss of 54 jobs, and this would be an inconvenience to those workers, their families, etc. And it would have an impact on all of the Lower Shore. And then in final conclusion, we wanted to express our disappointment in the decision of the United States Postal Service to hold only one public meeting, which to allow members of the community to ask questions and provide feedback. So this letter was read into the record by myself, and it echoed what was being said, and there were representatives from Wicomico County, Queen Anne's County, Dorchester County, Talbot County, and so this is a Lower Shore, not a Lower Shore, but an Eastern Shore problem, and this is another issue where this information was in the newspaper, and I got not one email, not one phone call on saying, let's not let this happen. It affects all of us. And it could be because I drive slow, or it could be because there was a lot of traffic. It took me 2 hours to get there. And when you're considering, there was a couple from Ocean Pines. I think their names were Kleins, and they were from the Southgate side of Ocean Pines. And I took a resident of River Run with me. I have a little company riding up the road, and they were interested also. But when you consider that only 4 people felt incumbent enough to travel there to have their voices heard, it just does not make sense not to have meetings where it's convenient for the people who are affected. So I encourage all of you, it's not too late to send an email and say, we don't want to see our mail go to Baltimore. It doesn't make any sense in my opinion.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Willie.
You got my stuff.
Oh, gee.
Okay.
All the secret stuff.
Where? You want it?
He won't need it in 78 days.
All right, we'll move on here to the
50.
general manager's report.
No shot getting a break, is there?
You want to take a break?
Yeah.
Want to take a break? All right, we'll take a 5-minute break.
Thanks.
Didn't want to sit next to me, huh?
No.
That's okay.
That's the way.
I don't know what to say. I do,
Let's get catch up.
He was right across. He may have had
I read them too.
Oh, okay. You find him?
No. Which means, my guess is he had a sports page with him. Does that mean anything?
Perils of a break.
All right, I'm going to reconvene the meeting.
Rock and roll.
General manager's report.
Okay. You have my written report. I'll just kind of hit on some of the highlights. Let me first talk about a couple of things that aren't in the written report. First one is July 4th fireworks. Typically, we would have those down at the Ocean Downs Racetrack. It is not open this year, so we had to make some interim plans. Those plans are to set off the fireworks at Showell Park, and a lot of the area, the church, the schools, and the pavilions and the driving range up there have all offered their parking areas to help accommodate Ocean Pines members who are interested in watching the fireworks. So they will be held in that area. We've already met with the state police and the local police to make sure that our traffic control plans are in place, and we're ready to go. We'll start advertising it probably next week.
What time?
It'll happen at dusk, typically around, roughly somewhere around 9 o'clock. They'll probably go off. We'll firm up that time a little bit better when
It's fine.
in the announcements, yes. Okay, through June, we've collected $761,000 in membership fees. Beach parking, swim, and golf remain behind budget. Tennis and platform tennis show increases in member purchases. We are in the middle of the month at this point, but again, once the kids get out of school, we'll have a better handle as to, how the rest of those things tally up. We're making a little bit of progress. I think we've got 10 under 40 golf memberships that have been sold, so we're making some progress in that area.
Wow, the report only shows 3.
What's the date on that?
6/11.
I think they told me the other day it was 10.
Wow.
I'll double check that.
Bailed me out, thank you.
Bridge engineering report. As you're aware, Worcester County has accepted Ocean Pines bridges into their inventory, making them eligible for funding from various governmental programs. The county had all bridges evaluated by an engineering company specializing in bridges. We're awaiting copies of the report. I think that John Tustin, Director of Public Works for the county, had to review those reports with the county commissioners yesterday, and he promised me he'd have them here tomorrow. So as soon as I get them, I will be distributing them to the board as well.
Tom, do you have any insight as to what's in the report?
I think it's not changed very much from last year's report. That they are going to need some maintenance or some reconstruction down the road, but for right now they're okay. Probably some routine maintenance things that have to be done to them. Swim and racket. I'm pleased to report that we completed the project in time for Memorial Day weekend opening. I think it was a great accomplishment. We're anxious to celebrate that now. So we're going to have a ribbon cutting celebration on Saturday, June 26th. The facility will typically open at 10 a.m. And in order to properly celebrate it, we're going to make swimming free of charge to all residents and guests to the swim and racket pool only. We'll have some
On that day.
On that day. We'll have some light refreshments as well. OPA versus
I just want to say that I'm very pleased to have to eat my words from the last meeting that I said I didn't think we may not get it done until June 15th, and I love to eat my words and things like that.
Can I ask?
What time is that?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Saturday.
Can I ask a technical question about that? Just with the Swim and Racket Club, the concrete for you guys in the construction business, there's red material coming up out of the concrete, like almost string type of material. Have you guys seen that? I saw it this morning. It's in the concrete, but it's coming up. I thought maybe it was a broom swept or something, but it's coming up in a lot of places.
I'll have to look at it. What we did was we actually got a high-quality concrete that was, the concrete is measured in, is it pounds per square inch that it can take?
Yes, sir.
And the mix that we got is higher than your typical residential mix.
Well, there's a substance, a red string-like substance that's
I had noticed
permeating
that. I
up.
was up there the other day. I'll have to go take another look.
Okay. While on part of the project down there, was it not to refurbish the piers that are down Swim and
marina.
Racket?
The ramp.
That was a
Separate and
separate
distinct,
project.
separate and distinct.
That was-
Separate and distinct. Any word when the final 2 piers are going to be dredged out?
We're waiting on, we have a public hearing tomorrow, I think it is, about that the state has scheduled. We're waiting for that to be completed, to see if there's any other issues that we have with it, but as soon as we get the permit to dredge it, we'll be dredging it.
Okay.
But Tom, that hearing's being conducted by the state of Maryland.
Yes.
Do we have any boats still waiting for a slip?
I think there are 3 that are still waiting for those slips right there.
Well, I could probably answer that because what they did, Marty, was they moved the boats out from there because of the work, and they offered all the individuals additional slips over into the main marina. Temporarily, all but one person accepted. He was unhappy. What he wanted was a regular slip that he could tie his boat off on both sides. But otherwise, everybody else has been accommodated.
Okay.
So,
The other question on that swim and racket, Tom, it's just FYI. Sarah over there, I spoke to her this morning about possibly reopening the left side as you come in for food service, light fare. Like we did it years ago as another way to improve the amenity. I don't know if she's spoken to you about that yet.
No, she isn't.
Isn't that under consideration?
At the Mumford Pool, we're going to do a takeout thing.
Swim and Racket, though, has a in-place snack bar.
Well, and I went and looked at it, and now we have just vending machines there, but
Yeah.
they used to have a actual
We're big
snack.
on machines versus people.
Well, that's going to be a much more heavily used pool now because of the nature of it's a much nicer pool. I thought there was an initiative, I thought the Aquatics Committee asked to do this, and I understand that there's some requests going forward to, no?
Yeah, we leased it out for a couple of years
You know,
to
like
college kids
sliced
that
pizza
ran it.
and hot dog hamburgers and a couple, you know.
It's never come up at the Aquatics Committee? No.
Tom, are you familiar with any of that sort
No,
of stuff? I've not heard of
Yeah,
it.
This is the first I've heard of it.
But I'm sure we'd have to go through the county, get the health permits
Sure.
and things like that.
Sure. But it may be something to consider now that the facility, it's been renovated, the pool looks great. They have
I mean, I
swim
love
meets and
Marty's idea if
everything.
we could find a couple of kids that would.
That's how it was run the last
That's
3 or
how it
4
was,
years.
yeah.
Most schools are run this, you find a couple of good, smart kids.
Do you
that
know,
want to do it for the
who
summer.
did it? The short kids. Jessica and Jen, I think, did it.
Okay.
Would you look into that, Tom?
Yeah. All right. You'll be happy to know that we received our final payment from SBN with a total of $60,870, which the file is now closed. And I will stop reporting on that one.
Great.
Okay. OPA versus YMCA, I think you all know that on May 20th, we had a pre-hearing conference on mediation in Annapolis. We came to no resolutions at that point. We're waiting for the courts to schedule the appeal hearing. There has been no movement in the IRS versus OPA case. We have a new suit from, it's a Marsden Furlough versus Ocean Pines Association. It's related to flooding in Section 3. The matter's been referred to Insurance Council, and we'll be following up with them to prepare our positions. Okay, collection and foreclosure update. I did circulate to the board the status of the Group 3 accounts that we had. We have scheduled one sheriff sale. It is scheduled for July 30th. And we're assuming that there will be no payments received before then for that one case. As you know, 32 counts have been targeted to date for foreclosure actions. We're in various stages of collections. The actions so far have yielded about $19,339 in payments. The balance for those 32 accounts totals $86,955 for 30 properties. We had actually scheduled for 2 sheriff sales. One is in litigation right now because of a misfiled mortgage, nothing that the association did, but it wasn't properly filed, and I think we went through that last meeting with you. Okay. Water and wastewater utility easement.
Wait a minute, question?
We have status of foreclosures listed again on the agenda. Are we gonna, is this it for that subject?
It's under your report.
Yeah, my report is, this is,
Then I have some questions on this. Do you want to do it now or later?
Let's do it now.
I try to follow the numbers, and I know that I'm not the brightest light bulb in the chandelier, but I'll be damned if I can make any sense of this. This is a report that we got. Foreclosure cases dated 4/30/10. This addressed the 20, 10 and 10. I think we're calling them Group 1 and Group 2. This is the one I received the other day. Why is this one $21,000 less than this one for Group 1 and 2 without any payments being taken into consideration? You can pick any one of these you want to. They're all running about $800 less now than they were then.
1 year's dues, perhaps.
No, less.
well, I'll have to look, Marty, I have no clue.
Well, it's impossible to follow the. When we keep moving the goalpost, I can't keep track of this. I mean, an example, if you take the number 1 guy in Group 2, number 1 guy, Group 2, on the one we just received by email from you this week. Now, bear with me, because my eyesight ain't what it used to be, especially after all that money in surgery. $3,458.18 is his balance, 6/11/10. Am I reading that correctly?
The first
Are
one.
you talking about Greenwood Lane? Group
Yes,
2?
yes, I believe I am.
I'm
Greenwood
looking at the
Lane.
schedule, that's 3,418 on 4/30/10.
3,004, I got 5818. There's no reason yours and mine should be the same because they don't make any sense over here either. On your 43010,
3,418.22.
okay, what does mine say, Mr. Mediator?
Where is it?
Right here.
Oh, 3,458.18.
Same number, right?
It is the same number?
No, it's different. It's,
What number do you
it's
have?
different.
Is there payment to the right of it for 40 bucks?
Come in, there's no payment
No.
to nothing.
Wait a minute, let's go one step further.
They look like the same.
On 430, he owed us $4,226.22.
Would you like me to take a look at that one sheet?
Which sheet? My one I got that's
The
supposed to be
larger
the same as
The
yours?
larger of the two. I just want to see if it includes 2011 billing.
Well, that would only make it higher.
Well,
Yeah.
No, I understand.
what's, yeah, but.
This is Greenwood Lane. Here we go. 43010 balance. The difference is the recently billed
22.
dues as of May 1.
So we're not showing that on the most recent one, but we show it on the last one.
Well, I think we were tracking delinquent accounts.
What was referred for collections is what we were tracking.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this 4226, I think if you take the difference between the recently billed dues. and
What's the
add it-
date of the 4226? It's right at the top of the page.
There's no date on that.
Sure there is.
Oh, here, in the column.
Yeah.
43010.
Okay,
That's correct.
so that does not include,
And this
No, no,
is
that's the total
611.
dues owed, including the most recently invoiced, I believe.
well,
Not
can't,
my schedule.
43010, there's nothing late for this year.
Well, that's the point. This
Not
is
late till 5/1.
This is what's late, Marty.
Okay, why is that one lower than that one?
because it mistakenly includes the $800 for this year. That's all. It just.
The current year's 822
Okay,
is
okay.
included in the 4222, because that's what they totally owe at that date.
Maybe we need a chalkboard.
Let me just try this. Let me try it.
Okay,
4,226 by this particular member is owed as of 4/30.
10.
That includes the most recently billed $823.
Gotcha.
Which is not delinquent.
gotcha.
This shows the delinquencies.
That's right.
And therefore does not include the 823 because it's not delinquent.
Okie dokie,
You got
you've
it?
answered my question.
Thank you.
May I have them both back? You have
This
both
is mine.
No, that's it.
Oh, here's mine.
You've got the one with the bigger.
Okay,
you
let
got
me
the one
ask
with
you
the
this
bigger
question.
number.
Why is your number on the most recent one different than my number by 40 bucks? Okay, I think
Maybe
I've
I
made
got
my
the wrong
point.
schedule.
Maybe I've made my point. Have I made my point? This is the most screwed up system I've ever come across in my life. It's no wonder we can't foreclose on anybody. Nobody can tell me what they owe.
Can I see that?
Just told you what they owe.
No,
Let me just, for the record, we have been tracking delinquent accounts fairly religiously, I think, in the association.
let me have this back.
And those delinquent accounts are updated, the schedule is updated, the foreclosures, the liens are all based on those delinquencies. So what has been in place for months is regarding delinquent accounts. Something that just went out a week ago is not included in the delinquency.
Can you read the heading on that for me?
Foreclosure cases.
Foreclosure cases.
Cases.
I normally assume that means they're delinquent that amount.
All right.
Okay, this is bad reporting. You can call it anything you want. It's terrible. Well, it is and it isn't. And, you know, nowhere on this most recent sheet do I see the outstanding just shy of $10,000 for the first two accounts. It's not mentioned in
They're
here.
not on there because.
All right, well, listen, Marty.
One more item, if I may.
Okay.
How come when we report all this good stuff that we're collecting, like the 19,282, we don't also mention the fact that we had 7,853.55 in bankruptcies on this list?
Well, I couldn't, Marty, if you'd like me to include that.
I think that's important information that we know that, oh boy, we collected 19, but we twiddled
But I
away.
did report it, I put it on the list.
Where?
It's right there, you just said it, it was $7,000 in bankruptcies. They're on the list.
Yeah, if you hunt and fish.
Marty, let me make a comment here, okay?
Sure.
We started this process last year because we didn't have a good enough process, in my opinion, before. So we started a process. The process is moving forward, and as I said before, I would like to see everybody pay up. So I'm not happy. I'm never going to be pleased till everybody pays up, but it's a process. Now, Can the reporting be better? Probably so. This is the first year we've done all this thing. If we sit down in the room and with a couple of us and you point out those errors and things, how we can improve their reporting, we'll do that, okay?
Well, that's the point I'm making.
Okay,
Don't
I
send
got
me a
your point.
report one month, and then the next month send me a report that doesn't include something. Or does include something.
We're refining
I'm
the
going to add the
report.
total balance to the, I'm going to, the 2010-11 dues are now delinquent. It's past the due date. I'm going to add them to the list. You'll see those on the list for every month after this.
And what's the date today?
The 16th.
16th of June.
So in less than 17 days, you can add back the $800 you took out of there.
I'm just telling you, I'm going to add the.
Okay, you got it, all right. Let's move on to, what else is on your report? The CPI thing?
CPI violations?
And the bid review, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, we skipped wastewater utility and
Oh, okay, yes, thank you. Utility easement, you looked at it last month. I recirculated it to my contract review task force, okay? After council for both the county and the association had looked at it. Two of my task force came back and said it looked fine. The third one said, I still would like some more information on the specifics of the easement area as well as restoring the property. I talked to Attorney Sonny Bloxam from the county yesterday. He has included the comments about the restoring the property to good order. And there is an attached meets and bounds description which specifies where the easement is. Okay, it doesn't get more accurate than that. So as long as that's attached, I think we've got all the bases covered. I just got this printed out this morning. I can circulate copies of it to you.
Okay, well, if with your concurrence, when I review this, I will look at all the input from all the people on the contract review board. I'll make sure it's all included and I'll sign it.
Well, does it include Ted Maroney's comments?
That's
that
what I'm
he's-
talking about.
Yeah.
It did not. So
Okay.
therefore, I will check it
Okay,
again. I'll make
please.
sure it's done and I'll go ahead and sign it.
Okay,
If I have any doubts whatsoever, I will not sign it.
okay.
Okay?
So I think Ted wrote a very nice.
You did.
Okay.
Good job. All right, good job. All right. The last thing under my management report before we talk about ARC is I have bid results from the golf ball store, the driving range storage facility for the golf ball machine. It's part of the rehab of the driving range this year. Okay, it's a 14 by 14 structure with a 6-foot porch on it. We had 6 different bidders pick up the packets for bidding. We only got two bids back. Okay, the low bid was Ron Sanko Construction from Riverside Court here in Ocean Pines. It's $24,345, the low bid. It's part of the it's been budgeted and within the budget amounts of the golf course renovation thing.
Well, I have a question about this. Going to address it now or when we go through it. It's in the budget, you said. I checked the budget, and I couldn't find anything in the budget to do with the rehab of this building. Not that I'm against it, I just couldn't find anything. If it's part of the drainage situation, if it's overall in the drainage situation, I don't see how this new clubhouse or new golf driving house
fits
part of the drainage issue. And the drainage issue, when it's presented to us by Aspen Corporation, we had a savings because it was below budget of whatever. It seems to me like we're reallocating that money for drainage for the Aspen. We aren't saving it at all, then, are we?
No,
You know what I mean?
gotta understand what's happening here. You can't take, the Aspen Corporation proposal was for doing the excavation work on the drainage. That's part of it. But in order to do the excavation work, the shed had to be removed, and it was part of the, well, you gotta restore it after you've got it done.
Well, what I'm saying is-
There's more to that, there's more to that project than just the Aspen.
What I'm saying is, and when it was presented to us for approval, the whole package should have presented that thing. But when we approved it, we said, we're having a savings here of some money, when really that wasn't the case, because we had more things that had to go in the overall project. That's all I'm saying.
Unless it was separately budgeted.
Unless it was
Correct.
separately budgeted, but it wasn't separately budgeted, because I couldn't find it anywhere, last night when I looked. So I just want to say that when we present these things, we need to see the whole package.
All detailed. Yeah, this one's kind of weird. Normally it'd be a turnkey thing, but there are elements to this we're doing pieces.
And we talked about, when we present these car bids, that we should have the sales tax included. I mean, this says 24,345, but it doesn't include electric. This says 24,345, but it doesn't include the pull-down shutters at 2981, which is part of the deal. We're up to 27,326 plus electric. And all of this is the Hauser golf ball machine, which is what I believe a world's first-class customer avoidance system. I mean, if we're going to have a ball machine at our driving range, it ought to be located on Route 1 over by Maryland University. And we could have a clown handing out, special hats. I mean, why don't we go in the clubhouse and get our golf balls like you do at every other country club in the Eastern United States?
That's not exactly how other clubs work.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question.
Well, every private club does.
Yes.
Pete?
Tom, the budget that this is part of, and what Bill was, I think, perhaps last night going to the budget book, the total amount budgeted within the budget book and approved by the board was how much?
About 6, I don't know.
In round.
The drainage project, I think it was 487,000, but I could be wrong.
How many components were there to that 485, whatever the number was?
There were several. There was the excavation itself, the
Excavation.
irrigation, it was sodding, it was...
In other words, there were 4 or 5
Yeah.
components that added up to be that total amount,
Right.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. Sanko is one of those components?
It's not...
You won't see it in the budget book.
It's not isolated. in
It's
the
not
budget.
isolated,
Yeah.
but there are various
It is one of the
components.
Yes.
Bill, I think, in other words, not every A, B, C, D, E that added up to the total is in the budget book, but the total's there.
Well,
I think the confusion-
again, I'm not saying I'm against it. What I'm saying is, though, let's just say, I forget the number, let's just say we had $525,000 included for the drainage project. That should have listed all the components. But when we approved the Aspen thing for 47 or whatever it was, it showed a savings under budget of whatever this delta was. Well, it's not the case, because we have to add this to it.
If that's
To
the
me, it
case,
was a
then that's wrong.
misrepresentation. I'm not
That's
saying it was
wrong.
intentionally misdone, I'm just saying it's sloppy approval process, and I don't like it.
What I'll tell you is that this is different than most other, normally we'll have a capital project, turnkey project. You get one budget, you get one, here you've got several different contractors contributing to one project. And
I think we're over budget
it
now.
will need to, I don't think so, but I'll.
Well, it all depends how you present the numbers.
No, I think the point's a valid one. To the extent that you've got 5 components and a single component, you can't then take the single component and say to the code and say, we're better than budget. It's got to be.
Driving range.
Right, I agree.
Okay.
What's this
I
building
just want to
right
make
here?
my point, that
Yeah,
we gotta
no,
be
it's
careful
good.
of this, because it can get out of control, This, I was kind of saying,
There's a building right
whoa,
here.
what is this,
Just off the driving range.
There sure is a difference, a huge difference in the bid, from 39,000 down to
There's a building right here. I don't know
24,000,
what it is.
Have we looked at the details?
This is the first home. There's a little starter shed.
Tom, why didn't
The starter shed.
why didn't these 4 bid? I mean, they just decide they don't have the capability, they're not interested. What?
How did the word for the bid get out to people? I know when you go on the website, you click, you're supposed to look under bids, proposal, I didn't see anything. How do they know?
Just seems odd that 4 out of 6 didn't.
Particularly
bid.
in light of today's economic times, when these people are looking for work.
I'll get you more information if you'd like, but I just, I'm not sure if they were contacted.
What do you think, Marty?
We don't know what our future clubhouse is going to look like, whether we're going to change it, tear it down, what we're going to do with it. We're putting in a new driving range. Right next to that's a building. I'm not that familiar with the layout. I was trying to get it on a satellite photo.
about, Les?
All
There's a
we're,
little shed that actually stands on the hitting area out on the range, so that
No, no, no,
people
no,
can
no, no,
get
no, that-
balls when this clubhouse is closed.
you're talking about way on the other end, where the school used
No,
to
I'm
be.
not. I'm talking about right in the front.
Okay, right off the
There has
driveway.
always been a shed there.
Okay, why can't we put that ball machine in there temporarily?
What?
Put the ball, what this shed is for is a ball selling machine.
It's also so that people can use the range when no one else is there, when the clubhouse is closed.
I understand that.
They can go out and hit balls at midnight if they want. You know,
I think Marty thinks it's still sitting there. It's not there. It's been knocked down.
It's not there.
I know it's not there. You're talking about the little shed where they held the ball machine.
Yeah.
There is another building just off of the old tees. Without an aerial photograph, I can't.
No, it's not.
There's a cart shed.
There's a cart shed that's got nothing to do with it.
That's the cart
That's
shed.
on the other side of.
That's the cart shed.
Can somebody make the motion and we'll have a discussion?
My
and
concern
we'll-
is this a design-build project, or the plans were prepared by somebody and they bid on the plans? How was this done?
The plans were prepared.
Who prepared the plans? How much
Is this the plans right here in front of us?
to prepare the plans?
Here's the plans.
I can't speak for what was and what wasn't proposed on paper, but I can tell you that when Harlan presented this project to the BOG, among other things, and to the board, it was mentioned. It was all about the whole thing.
Well, it's not in the budget, that's the whole problem.
Okay, well, that's a mistake.
I never knew anything about a new
Tried to find
building.
it, couldn't find it.
Well, you can't find it as a separate component of much
Well, when he
larger number.
presented
That's
it, I
what
mean,
I'm
you'd
saying.
think it'd be a separate component.
Okay.
How much did we pay for the plans, I wonder, you know?
I understand what you're saying, Pete, that it's part of the bigger thing, and then I heard Bill say we may be over budget.
I don't know.
I mean, I guess the real question is, are we over budget or not as a result of this?
Don't know.
We can find out in about 2 minutes.
I think that's important.
Well, not if we have to add, these plans gonna cost, we don't know what they cost.
I guess
And what's strange here, you know, for example, here, in the Senko bid, the contractor is to obtain the Worcester County permit. Does that mean he's gonna pay for it? In this one, it says the contract, all plans and permits by Ocean Pines.
That's the higher bid anyway.
I know, but that's even higher, so I'm just confused as to, you know, I'm being asked to, once again, I'm being asked to approve this, and I'm just not comfortable doing it.
Did it go through the contract review board?
No.
No, John, not bids. Bids don't go through the contract.
It's a bid, before it's signed,
Contract
it's more than 15,000, it'll go through the contract or bid thing. But again, I don't want to be difficult, because I think the
Well,
project
I'd ask
probably
just two
needed.
things. If those kind of questions come up in the future, let me know ahead of time. I'd be more than happy to be prepared with all those answers for you. I'll get them right now for you if you want.
Well, you can't get them right now.
Well, we better get them right now because it's important
Okay, well,
to decide this right now.
Because I don't think you can get them right now. You can get financial data, but who's going to give you all the answers? How much did it cost to get those?
I'll get it for you.
Okay,
Tell
all
me
right.
what you want. You want to know how much the cost for the drawing was. You want to know what?
I want to know all the costs
the budget
associated and
allocate-
versus budget.
The budget allocation for the,
Everything.
you just go and call on. And how much the Soleil's cost?
Budget allocation?
Yeah.
I think even there are 5 or 6 different components of the total that's in there. So
I'm also curious what I'm going to have to bid on there.
What was Soleil's cost?
Here's the driveway coming around the country club. There's a building right here. That's Cart Barn.
Are there other things that are going to jump up?
Nothing to do with it.
golf, he's the superintendent of golf.
Well, it's a golf course, why couldn't that machine be right there? Since the driving range now, leave it right back to here.
I don't know. Who solicited the bids?
I'm just talking for a temporary solution to decide what we're gonna do.
Okay, ask
Harlan was the one who oversees all this, and he would be supervising.
Ask how he solicited the bids, that's all.
Good point. Well, it is somewhere.
It wouldn't be Kerry Nelson, that's for sure.
Dump.
No, Joe, I'm sure that Joe.
I'm talking about the ball machine.
That's probably the dump too.
That's probably where it belongs, if you've ever used it. It's normally out of balls.
Board's got several questions.
Where is the ball machine as we speak?
And how much was the, well, how much?
Does
was the
anybody know?
allocation for the shed?
It's in storage somewhere. It's not being.
And, you know, I understand the purpose behind it, but having gone over there to drive golf balls after hours, which is when I like to do it because I'm so bad, I don't want anybody to see me.
You know, it's over budget.
2 out of 3 times it was empty and I lost $5 in it. I got the money back, but it was empty. And there were people mad
The real
You
question.
that were
know,
there
if you think
because it was empty.
If you think taking care of the ball
It's a
machine.
terrible
is hard,
system.
Try thinking of having a person giving out balls, you know, when you went over there all night. I mean, the ball machine, you know, is a period, maintenance of everything is a periodic problem around here.
I tell you what, the way they do it in most places I know of is they put the golf balls in stacks at each driving range station when they leave at night, and if anybody comes up, they put money in a box.
Well, I think what you'd find is the ball's gone. This is Ocean Pines. You find the ball's gone.
Well, that's nice. That's reason number 3 for me not to consider joining here.
And the box are gone.
You show me a golfer that'll steal 15 golf balls, and I'll show you one I don't want to play golf.
I'll take 2 buckets.
It's not the golfers that vandalize the course, Mark.
Okay.
I mean, it's a problem. A real problem.
They go out, they go back out and hit the balls right out of the middle of the field. You know
I couldn't
that.
find it in the budget. That looked hard.
Sure.
I didn't see it.
Everything's going to total 44,000 and change. Okay. So it's somewhere around 23 and change for the year.
Marty, you got your budget book here?
No, I don't. Didn't
I
bring
thought
it.
you always carried it around with you. What do
You know what? With only 30 or 58 days left, I get tired of lugging all that stuff around.
You would think with only 58 days, you'd come prepared.
We taking a break?
No, well, I'd like to check with finance on something, but have you got the answers on that?
Yeah, this was not part of the drainage budget. It was the Golf Operations Department 55. The budget amount was $445,000. There are 2 components of it. The equipment that's housed in this building and the building itself. Combine them both and they're about 44,000 somewhere and change, so it's within the budget.
Okay, well, I couldn't find it in the budget. I looked under golf operations, and I looked up all the capital projects, and I couldn't find it. So let's get the budget book out.
This thing's in storage now, golf balls. Is that, Dave, is that what they're saying?
It's somewhere in storage because there's no need for it. There's no rain.
Don't take a break.
Yeah.
Rain is
Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break, folks, till we get an answer on this thing.
You don't get rid of it. You got, you know.
Here it is. So it is totally separate from the drainage project. Now, this looks like a good bid because it's low, but did they bid on the same package, you know?
For sure they did. Yeah.
They bid on those plans that we did?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it was surprising, one of them would list all the things. I don't know why you bother listing them if they're in the plan, like cedar impressions and all that kind of stuff. But we can vote on this, but I'm just concerned about our bid project and that we have a list of all these bidders. Remember we started for the Plymouth Racket and other things? We need to make sure that this word on bid goes out. It goes into our website and all that kind of stuff so that...
Absolutely. Well,
I mean, did Haggerty bid this? Was he given an opportunity to?
I don't know.
Most of these are coordinated through the Public Works Department. They put all the bids online. I got to make sure that Harlan does that.
We're going to make sure we have a section now. You just click on pending bids, okay? All right, I'm going to call a vote.
Well, you got to call the motion
Is
first.
there a motion?
It's not a motion.
Well, okay, we have a motion?
I'll move to,
All right, do we have a second?
accept it.
I'll second it.
Any other further discussion?
You know, I think that building a building at that location outside of the concept of a 10-year plan is silly. There's plenty of places to put that ball machine until such time as we know what we're doing with the property in general. I think this is a waste of money.
Yeah, one place would be my basement.
Yeah,
I mean,
funny.
people that park on the parking lot aren't going to go to the other side of hole 1 to get a bucket of balls and come all the
I
way
just
back.
showed you, it's exactly the same spot.
It's not.
It is.
That building is a long way from that parking lot.
I've got it on
It's awful.
an aerial view. It is not. It literally is 5 steps away.
Marty.
The cart building?
It's not.
The
Okay.
court building is not. I mean, it's a long ways away.
Leave it out. Leave the
I
ball
wouldn't
machine
walk there to
outside.
get a cart.
All right, do we have any further discussion on this? I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
No.
Driving range building.
Marty, you opposed?
Opposed.
Okay.
Opposed.
5-2.
Opposed. Now, how far is that? Now that I've refreshed your memory.
I'm going to keep my memory refreshed. Come on, Marty, I'm there every week. Yeah, that's a pretty good distance.
All right,
here's where the ball machine
ARC.
used
All right,
to
Marty, we're
Yeah.
over on
And
this.
what's
Same
more,
difference.
that building is locked. We put carts in there in the evening, in the morning. We don't let people walk in there.
This one's somewhat unusual. We just had this hearing yesterday, but we're hearing this by the board today. But I'll give you a copy of the memo from about the matter as well as the background stuff.
This is what is this?
This is, yeah. Well, I got one for everyone.
Thank you. Need one more. I need one. I passed them across. I think Pete needs one.
Everybody have one?
Okay, the issue here, as I see it, is this is a variance request. The rules, whether we like or not, state that the final decision to approve a variance lies in the hands of the ECC for this section. I think there's only one section of Ocean Pines that has a separate rules, and I believe that's the park. Is that right? Where there's a oversight by the board?
Yeah.
But there's not in this case. You know, the declarations are in fact what they are.
It's not quite true. The park is more restrictive than the Ocean Pines and can enforce those, but Ocean Pines, it cannot be less restrictive.
Right.
We still have to
Right,
abide
so
by Ocean
the
Pines.
fact is that we cannot overrule or cannot do anything about a decision of the ARC or the ECC in a case of approval or disapproval of a variance. We can, in fact, choose not to go to court, and that therefore is a de facto approval, but we can't approve the request, okay?
Can you tell us what it is?
Yeah, it's a box trailer.
The same guy that was...
Yes.
Mr. Abed is right over here, same one. It's a box trailer that's being used to house electronics and stuff like that. Okay.
He changed seats, he's over here now.
Okay, anyway, Tom, why are you giving it this, and what do you want us to do?
Well, we deferred to last week, or last month, it was presented to the board for, with a recommendation to pursue legal enforcement of it. Okay, Mr. Abin came, he made his appeal to the board. The board asked that the matter be remanded back to the ARC for consideration. They did that. That meeting occurred yesterday. Okay, at the conclusion of that meeting, the ARC committee had concluded that they made the right decision the first time. No variance would be granted for the box trailer. So it's back to you today, and you received a correspondence from Mr. Abin yesterday saying that he wanted to be heard by the board on this subject again.
Okay, Pete?
Yeah, I was in attendance at the ARC meeting because I am the board liaison to that particular committee. Tom was not at that meeting, but what he just stated is absolutely factual. I think part of the confusion regarding this particular case occurred because while it was referred to the board at the last meeting for action, that is, action being referred to legal, prior to that, in the public comment section, the appeal was made to us directly as a board, and the presentation was made, which we all heard, prior to getting to that particular agenda item later on. So we actually encouraged, I believe, I think did two things. Number one, we said we were not the proper body to make an appeal to, and we encouraged, I think, him to go back to ARC, which he then did and availed himself of that particular opportunity and met with them yesterday. Having heard that, as Tom just suggested, the committee once again, and he had a slide presentation, which had not previously been given. I did not understand that. When he originally met a couple of years ago, he did not have a video or audiovisual presentation, but he did have that yesterday, and even updated, I think, from the one that the board received the other day, or the board at its last meeting. So they had a good discussion of that. They reaffirmed the reasons why it was appropriate to deny the variance request, and asked that it be placed on the agenda for this board meeting, picking it up from the prior board meeting. We simply chose last meeting not to act on it in light of the circumstances, referring him back to the ARC. So that's where we are today, and that's why the paperwork is just now arriving, because this occurred just 24 hours ago. So here we are, and at the ARC's recommendation, it's coming to the board for action to refer to legal.
So what we're looking for here is a motion to send this matter to the PA attorney to action.
Correct.
Okay, is there a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. The reason I was for sending this back for reconsideration is because on this sheet right here, there was no actual record of Mr. Abent ever actually appearing before the ARC in the past, and from his comments, which were made in public, I got the feeling that he felt that he wasn't listened to, wasn't given his rights, etc. I wanted to make sure those rights were in fact given, and that full consideration was given to the case. Whether it was before or not didn't make a difference to me. Also, I was concerned that although this individual, this member, is a permanent resident and lives full-time in this thing, that these letters, a couple of them were returned unclaimed, or one, whatever. It just wasn't clear to me. So I understand now, I'm more comfortable that our process has been proper.
May I?
Yes.
Yeah. And with regard to the process, we went over this in some detail, and of course your email and the exchange of emails with one of the members of the ARC committee. I think even yesterday's meeting, Mr. Abent acknowledged that he did in fact receive one of those. Two were sent by certified. He didn't pick them up. They were returned to the post office, but he did in fact, just one, okay. But you did in fact receive one letter, but advising you of the meeting, but you chose, for whatever reason, you were not at that particular meeting of the ARC, and then they took their action to refer to the board without his being there, but he did in fact have notice of that meeting, so that was cleared up for me.
Okay, yeah. All right, any further discussion?
This letter, I mean, if we're going to do this right, do it right. I mean, I personally think this is bogus, but the ARC guidelines prohibit box trailers. That's a quote right out of this. Show me.
I think the box trailer, the trailer prohibition is really...
It doesn't say the word box trailer in either one.
You're correct.
I'm going to vote against it, and I'm going to park a trailer in my yard starting tomorrow. Come on and get me.
You have to.
Come on.
Don't care.
Okay.
We will.
Yeah, you'll lose.
The rules are the rules,
Yeah.
And if you want to
You can't make them up as you go along. And this
I don't
guideline,
think
where
we-
boat trailers with tarps are okay, but people's clean, neat working trailers are not, is BS, and I will prove it to you in a court of law.
Well,
Come after me.
I think that's the way to go.
That's what I'm going to do.
And that's okay.
I just want you to know, this is going to overturn your little box trailer trip.
And that's okay, Morty.
That's okay.
If you want to do it.
I would just, Kerry Nelson at yesterday's meeting advised Mr. Abent that there had been a prior precedent for this, that when Judge Eschenberg, and as you recalled it was December 22nd was the case a couple of years ago, and the judge was not happy that it was several days before Christmas, and he had to rule on this, but he in fact did rule in favor of Ocean Pines and caused the removal of that particular trailer. which is being used in a ministry-type fashion as it was described to the ARC yesterday. And so Kerry just reminded the entire group of that particular set of circumstances and the precedent.
That is not a precedent, please. It is a precedent for the lot where that trailer sat.
I'm not going to
It has
discuss
nothing
legalities.
to
I'm
do.
just suggesting what was said
Okay.
yesterday at the meeting.
Well, I just think you shouldn't use the correct terms. It was a,
Well,
that situation,
one way or
there's no
another,
precedent until
what
I get out of
happens-
Annapolis.
What happens in legal after this board makes a decision, I mean,
It's out of our hands.
the board simply has to follow the rules that the board
Right.
has to follow,
Right.
and, you know, whatever happens
Did we do
after
that with
that.
Biancanella?
if we're s-
I don't think so. Biancanella was
Because
another case of...
as you know, I've said it many times, I share some of Marty's concerns about what's good for the goose is not good for the gander, but that doesn't make any difference. That's irrelevant here. We got to follow the rules, in my opinion. Now,
Well, the rules are what's best for the
Another
community.
issue here is the
And the
setting of
membership.
fees, and that is in the purview of the of management and the board of directors. And
May I, because you're probably not aware of something.
I might not be. Go ahead.
Okay. The Reverend made reference to his objection to the fees at yesterday's meeting, and I think subsequent there too, Kerry Nelson had a conversation with Tom Olson about that particular, and Tom, I don't know whether you're comfortable with sharing your conclusion or not, but I think that's being addressed.
The $75
already.
fee.
It's already being addressed, okay? So there's no need for any board action or anything like that.
Well, what we're talking about here, for so Mary knows, we have a $30 variance fee, submit to that, and we also have a $75 inspection fee. You know, and that's to pay for the inspector to go out and inspect whatever.
It's
he's
really
doing.
not applicable, that fee isn't applicable.
I don't, well,
under these
that's what the
circumstances.
issue is. It's
Yeah.
not fair.
I don't think so.
It's being taken care of.
And, yeah, so
It's
that'll
being
be,
taken care of.
so the $75 is gonna be returned, good.
Extenuating circumstances.
Okay, now we have a motion and a.
All right,
second.
I'm going to call the question. All in favor of proceeding to court? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, six.
When you're talking about that court, the other one I'm going to be all for.
All right, we'll move right on here. Anything more for the general manager's area? No. Old business. Resolution M-07, bulkhead and waterway maintenance, second reading. There's been no changes, and you've all got that in your package. It's really a compilation of two old resolutions into one. There's no real change or anything. So do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Do we have any comments from the bylaws and resolutions committee on that? And to cancel the other two. The other two
Yeah, good.
resolutions.
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the other amenity policy. Unanimous. The other one is amenity policy B-08, first reading. We discussed this last meeting. There's been a few changes, one of substance, I think, but you want to go ahead and brief that?
Well, the draft you have should be dated June 9th. And the copy that the directors
Passed as of now.
The copy that the directors have, as well as Tom, should also have different color font for where changes have been
So the
made.
one that was in our
Red, blue, I think green is also in there somewhere. You may want to
You want the color?
take a look at the changes in particular.
We're going to go to jail for being
Understand
so
those.
green.
We'll have a chance to discuss this again, but essentially the ones in red are the changes, and most of those are changes in syntax or whatever, but there's one significant change on it
Yeah, I'll say.
that needs to be, I believe, read.
Want me to read it for you?
No, I don't. And explain it. You want to do that?
Are we talking about the one on the,
Page 2.
Fee-based amendment.
page 2, the red in the, basically in the middle? Okay.
Before you move on to that one, on paragraph 5A, general use amenities, you got down there, you added, may reserve certain facilities for their exclusive or limited use for a fee. You don't have the sports court pool. Because the pools can in fact be, as I understand it, rented out for birthday parties, etc. And that should be listed under there.
Under a 5A?
5A.
Would you take that note?
Listing at the top.
Well, I think that's a little,
That the only pool, or all the pools?
I just put pools.
Yeah, pools.
Somebody writes a check and wants to rent a pool
Well,
for a day.
you sort of, no, be careful what you're doing there, Bill.
That's true.
Read the head of 5A, what the title of 5A is. Yeah, so you don't want to put pools under that paragraph. Okay, on the other hand,
I don't understand why not.
because they're not general use amenities, they're fee-based amenities,
Fee-based
as in paragraph B.
We don't want to include them in the other.
So definitely not.
Okay,
And you might,
good point.
But that doesn't preclude somebody from wanting to rent it out and so forth, right?
yeah, the fee-based amenities, by the way, I think it's not necessary to put that sentence in there. I mean, it's part of our policy, and it's true that you can rent the sports pool or any pool for your exclusive use. And it's in our, it's part of the fee description, I think, actually.
My only point is that, and I hear what you're saying, but does that, by not being listed someplace that you can in fact rent out the pool, people may not think about it? I mean,
Well, the reason they'll think about it is because we tell them they can right in the back of our recreation guide. And we have a whole page for what the rental fees are for those. The point here was that, look, we have free, sorry, Maureen, free meeting space, no charge meeting space over in that building. And we're saying, though, that if somebody wants it for their exclusive use, or somebody from the outside comes in, they can rent that space.
And Dave, that's a distinction between the general use amenities and the
general use and the fee-based amenities, yeah.
maybe,
It's general use and no charge except for the fact if you rent it, you gotta pay.
maybe a better answer to all that would be a separate paragraph or separate A, B, C, or whatever, stating that individual members, etc. Take that sentence and make it a separate paragraph. Because it doesn't apply, I mean, how many people run out the boat ramps, the kayak launch sites, etc.? There's only certain facilities that we do in fact rent out. You can rent out the
That
country
whole
club.
paragraph should be a
separate
5D.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
You see that,
You're talking about
Take this out right here.
Last two sentences and make it a separate sentence.
this right here? Make that a separate, make it a 5D and just address it, put a lead-in paragraph about renting and reserving the...
Make it applicable to all of them.
Yeah, to all of them.
Yeah,
that's a good point, okay. Now, the red part.
Okay. This is second page, the red that's in the middle, more or less, of the page. It is recognized that fee-based amenities are not businesses, but rather facilities which are operated for the benefit of the community. Consequently, it is not a requirement that they operate at a profit. However, it is recognized that operating all of the association's amenities in an efficient and cost-effective manner is important. Therefore, to the extent possible, fee-based amenities should, at a minimum, seek to cover operating costs with membership and other fees and sales revenues.
Three comments, if I may. First, benefit of the community, what is that? I thought we were operating for the benefit of the membership, which is not the community.
It should be for the benefit of the association.
Fine.
That's
Number two,
That's a good point.
clearly whoever wrote this must have just reviewed our profit and loss statements, which prove we are not a business. I guess this just means we're going to throw in the towel on trying to make these things operate in any kind of respectful manner or business sensible manner.
I think the last sentence kind of covers that.
It doesn't, it covered it all. We're not businesses. You're going to tell me a restaurant operating at the yacht club is not a business? You're going to tell me a golf course selling memberships and tee times is not a business?
Yeah.
Now, true, when it's operated the way we operate it, it's pretty obviously not a business. But that's not the way that the members, I believe a majority of the members expect it to be operated.
That may be true.
We have a fiduciary duty to them to make the best of these facilities for everybody.
If I may, I would recommend the second sentence be scratched. Consequently, it's not a requirement that they operate at a profit. I would take that out. It is recognized that operating all the associated in an efficient and cost-effective manner is important. I would take out the one about the negative issue there.
I just say they're operated for the benefit of the membership.
May I respond to that?
Sure.
Sure.
One of the reasons I think that's important is because we hear it, all of us, I know from time to time, and more often than perhaps we would like to hear it, that there is an expectation that each of these amenities be self-standing, self-supporting, and in fact at least break even. And I don't think that's the overall policy. If we want to establish a policy that each and every one operate at least break even or shut down, I think that's bad policy. Now, this is trying to address the fact that there is not an expectation, not a requirement that there be a profit. Indeed, there are some times where it's reasonable that it not be, if it's for the general use, for the general benefit of the membership. But making that clear, I thought, is important in a policy statement such as this, to get on record with the fact that every effort will be made to make it at least break even, as it says here. It acknowledges the responsibility to operate it on a cost-effective basis, but it is clearly something that's been mentioned from time to time in the community and various individuals. If it's not making a profit, close it down.
I totally agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying in there, leaving that in there, I don't think adds anything. I think it's covered by saying it is recognized that operating in an efficient and effective manner is important. It doesn't address the issue of profit, and I don't think we want to even bring up the issue of profit in here.
Well, why was that paragraph added from this one to this one?
Well, a member made a recommendation to add it, so I don't, if you would make a recommendation to add it, it would be added and we discuss it.
Yeah. I like the I like the thought process, I just don't like the negative content.
Yeah, the response to Marty Clark, I think he knows, he made reference earlier to who might have authored this, and it's me, and I even mentioned this.
Well, I didn't make any reference at all, but now it's quite clear.
You were thinking.
No, I wasn't. I really and truly didn't think that it was anybody at this table authored it.
I in fact mentioned this language at the last board meeting.
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah, you did. And my only thing was,
And Dave, I know, had some reaction to it too.
over the years, we've had a discussion about these being business amenities, and many of us at this table say that's an oxymoron. You can't have a business amenity, but you can operate our
Sure you
amenities
can.
in a business-like fashion. And I think that's the
Car
critical
wash is an
aspect.
amenity.
I think the critical aspect is that we do the best we can to operate these in a business-like fashion. And I think it's covered under here the way it's written, or you could add the word business. I just take out, I don't like the idea of
And it may be 6-1, you know.
What
but,
we said in the previous, if I may, it said the annual cost to operate and maintain the facility or asset. And I'll take this back, this is older than it was.
Yeah.
General use amenities are funded through annual assessments and sales of related products and services.
Operating costs, though.
Yeah, fee-based amenities are funded insofar as possible by revenue generated by charging fees for the use of that amenity. Insofar as possible.
What's wrong with that?
I mean, the fact of the matter is there is, and never has been, as far as I'm aware, any guarantee to anybody coming into moving into Ocean Pines, that, hey, by the way, all these things, they support themselves. There's no expectation for that. Anybody had that expectation would be pretty foolish in the case of the yacht club, because it never did. Ever.
If I can jump in, just as I sit here and read it, I actually agree with John that I think this is well written and it addresses something that we've kind of gone back and forth with. I would agree with John, however, consequently is not requirement that they operate at a profit. I don't think that's a necessity, because the next two sentences pretty much say what it's supposed to do. I think the profit issue, I don't think that's a necessity in here.
So you're recommending that first of all, we change community association, then
yes.
we delete the consequently paragraph, and we start off,
And
it is
strike-
recognized.
right,
Take out
strike however.
Sentence.
Yeah, just a
That
sentence.
sentence, and then,
And start out, don't say however, just say it is recognized that operating
You could
all
do
these
that.
amenities
Yeah.
in
Yes.
efficient cost is important.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
If you keep it in the first sentence. it's
keep the
okay.
first sentence,
Oh, yeah,
get rid of the second.
Any other changes to that?
That's all right.
Okay.
Well, I mean, again, I'll voice my concern. I would eliminate it entirely. I think it's giving up.
Okay.
I don't.
It's giving up trying to make these amenities be run in a business-like manner.
I don't think.
You know,
No.
well,
Far
you
from
know,
that.
No, I
But
think
also-
it's what it's doing and what it really addresses is that if you don't operate as a profit like you're supposed to and like you guaranteed us it was going to be done,
That's
then,
not-
then tear them down and take them away.
we said that. But look, when you and I bought here, the golf course made money.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, it did.
No, I bought before
All right.
you did.
No, you-
We're going to kill this thing to death here. I think the last comma, the one between cost and width, should not be there. I think that's a dangling phrase, but, so I think we should leave the comma, and when we write this thing, we change to a
One other, what I did was I asked my department heads that were involved,
Did you go to a different page? Where is it?
non-OPA member use.
You got the wrong,
It doesn't matter.
Okay, all
I
right.
just want to, it's in both.
Doesn't matter. Nobody's got the same sheet in any of this stuff.
Are we all working off the same sheet?
Yes, we are.
Okay, okay.
Except for Tom.
Except for Tom.
Are we on the same page?
This is the correct version. This is the one I sent around to my staff. Both
All
of
right.
those versions have the,
All right,
I had sent an earlier one.
What you're
An earlier
addressing
one
is
to
in
the
both.
staff. Yes.
Yes.
okay.
If you look under non-OPA member use, third line down, it begins with a paren without accompanying membership in the beach club pool. Suggest that we strike that because associate members do not receive parking with pool membership, so.
Just strike that
Just
entirely?
strike that paren portion.
Okay, you got that? All right.
How many of those memberships have we got?
Nothing.
What else we got?
That's it.
Okay, so we'll incorporate those changes, and we'll look at them again at the next meeting.
Where was the comment you were talking about?
In the paragraph was however.
He's got it all, and he'll route it again, we'll have one more chance in the future.
Make one more comment on resolutions.
Yes.
I anticipated M07 would be approved as submitted. I'd appreciate it if the president, secretary, and general manager signed it before I brought a copy for signature. That would greatly reduce the confusion.
Okay. Sign it when?
Now.
Yeah, before you leave. Before you leave.
And
I'll
keep
try- I'll
that
try to do
copy
that.
close to
All
your
right,
heart.
pending action list.
Keep that copy close to your
All right, I'll
heart.
run down this quick. We've covered a lot. I was trying to keep up during the meeting. Resolutions review, need a completion plan. Dave, that's looking at you, sir.
Yeah. I'll defer that to Jim if I may. The list of, I didn't have my completion list with me on the resolutions. I think we're down to
We're down to there's several resolutions. Stand up. There are several resolutions dealing with facility operation, not the rules that people have to live by using the facility, but in particular management type functions for the various facilities, the yacht club, the golf course, and so on. The intention is to combine those into a single resolution similar to the one on rules where Tom was given the authority to generate, revise whatever the rules for the various facilities, inform the board of what he's done, and it basically becomes a management function as opposed to a board approval function. That takes care of all but one of the remaining resolutions, and that remaining resolution is the elections resolution, which is being deferred until after the election to get the additional experience of an election before revising, updating the elections resolutions. Beyond that, there is one resolution that would be a brand-new resolution being considered. A draft exists, has not been circulated, has circulated to Tom in particular, dealing with acquiring and maintaining some control of what we could call manuals for the operation of various functions within the association. For example, there are financial manuals, we call them manuals of one kind or another. Could even include the emergency plan for the
Employee handbook, there's a whole ARC guidelines, a list of all those.
There are other things that either are in what we call a manual or similar definition of a manual, or could be put in a manual. But that's a new subject. That's not an existing resolution. There are approximately 5 of these facilities, I'll call management resolutions, how the facilities are managed, and there is one election resolution, so obviously they're not going to happen to this board. We'll carry over to the next board because there's not enough meetings to review a draft. That's the situation.
Okay.
So could I move the due date out to September? It's after the election
Yeah.
or October?
The intention, I think you probably better pick it October, to be frank with you. Because among other things, I don't think there's going to be enough time after the election to really...
That's fine. That way it's just on here.
I don't understand, Jim. You got 2 members now on your board. Why can't you get it done sooner?
Thank you.
And I'd like to say, if I may, that when President Rako suggested this 3 years ago, I rolled my eyes and said, this is going to take longer than getting the bylaws done. I did say that. Yeah. Well, it didn't take longer, but it did take 3 years, and Bill deserves all credit for pushing this through and
I think if
getting it
anybody
done.
looks at what we've got in the much smaller book,
And we're-
more concise, and I think it's a value, even though it's bureaucracy, even though it's a bunch of whatever it is,
No.
it's important that we reviewed our processes.
We're a lot better off than
We're a lot
we
better
were.
off, okay. Moving right along.
All right, amenity, we went through that earlier, unless you have anything to add to that, Bill. Election procedures, Jim, you just mentioned that. Comprehensive plan concept.
That's my favorite.
I know it is. That's why I keep...
And, you know, actually, I don't want to say there's a lot of progress, but what I do have in my possession after months of wait is the inputs on the various sections. So I have them in soft copy in the computer. It's still my intent to whittle those down to a manageable and readable draft that the board can look at. And do I still think a comprehensive plan is important? Yeah, I do. I think the last one was, and I think it needs to be done again.
What time frame would you have on that thing? Just so it's not read off.
I want it to be done for this. I mean, I'd like to see the draft. This board look at the draft of it. So let's talk about, let's talk about next month. By the end of next month.
July board meeting?
July board meeting.
Okay. Compensation benefits, I think, didn't we already do that one, Pete? It says TBD, but I'm sorry?
He's working on it, right?
Yeah, very quickly, I updated the board last month. It's Jill Lobb from Purdue, Gene Lewis from Budget and Finance Committee, and myself. We've had now 3 meetings. Next step is to do some comparative data with other organizations, comparing our benefit programs to theirs, and hopefully do a report to the board at the July meeting. Hopefully that can be done. I've secured a volunteer amongst the committee to put together a little report, but it does depend on whether or not the comparative data is able to be garnered or not. So my objective would be to try and get it to the July, again, before the new board is.
Will that need to be a closed meeting?
No.
Okay.
No.
So we'll put it on the agenda for next month?
Well, let's see what happens with the...
I added July to the PAL.
Okay.
That's okay.
No, I understand.
Once it's on the PAL, Pete, it's official.
It's official now.
Well, we'll get to that when we get to number 9.
Golf outsourcing, and I'm going to just put F&B as well, because they're both outsourcing. I think we're going to talk about these next week. Okay. GM, Tom, these are yours, and I think that we've covered most of these, right? Penthouse, parking lot, bridges, yacht club. All right, the fire department, we agreement and funding. As a matter of fact, I've met with them once. I have another meeting scheduled, just so you guys know, this week, Thursday, just as a follow-up, just so everybody knows. I know it's under yours, Tom, but I thought I'd mention that. Customer service plan.
Well, I would just, John, to respect to your earlier comment, once it's on the PAL with a date, it's on the, right?
Yeah, it's on there, yeah.
June 15, 2010.
Yeah. What's the date today?
In other words, there's flexibility.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Of course there is.
that's all I want to say.
Except for some.
We'll be moving that
So
one
Bob,
out.
I'm willing to be, have you put that to my finish.
Thanks, John.
It means that you've got to make another excuse next month. That's what it means.
Customer,
That's all.
Moving right along.
customer service plan. Tom, you want an update on that?
The update is that it's being implemented as we speak, getting some positive feedback. Actually, in the next 30 days, I'll be identifying my secret shoppers and asking them to go in and do some stealth evaluations for me. And we're making, I think we've gotten some good feedback so far.
If I may make a comment, part of the customer service plan was trying to keep the bathrooms over in the beach clean. I was in there Saturday, and I'm here to tell you, they were the cleanest I've seen in 15 years. Okay, those two kids were in there cleaning. I mean, you know, I was really surprised.
Any shot we can get those guys to go and look at the yacht club every once in a while?
Hey,
Because I got a photograph from last Saturday. I wouldn't allow one of my children to go in there.
I will tell you, the young kids did a remarkable job.
Thank you, Jim.
Actually, Marty's comment is well taken.
I mean, the yacht club bath at 1 o'clock last Saturday. But I got a photograph if you want it.
No,
I sent it to you. It
Let's
was
discuss the photographs
disgusting.
within the bathroom.
I haven't, well, I was in there at 5 o'clock, which
What,
is kind
is
of
that
after
Pete in
the
there?
afternoon.
Wait a second.
You know,
See that guy with a camera in the bathroom?
Bill, you know, this is the bathrooms over there at the yacht club is a very interesting situation because they're used by both the club members, those who eat food, and those who swim. I don't know who is responsible for those bathrooms.
When I was there.
If it's the Joe or the lifeguards. I personally would strongly recommend it would be Joe. And the reason I say this, I eat in a lot of restaurants. In the one place that's open to the public, I go back and I even visit kitchens in some restaurants, but open to the public at every place are your bathrooms. And if they're negative, then I never go back to that restaurant. And I would strongly make Joe responsible for that 100% of the time and clean up the issue.
As soon as this meeting's over, I'll be talking to
Well,
I mean,
if I may say that when the board of directors has to get involved in the cleanliness of facilities, we got a problem. I've made several statements about how I feel the yacht club is not as clean as it should be, and I've told you about it. And I can show you, I'll offer it again, I'll take you around, I'll show you a lot of places that I'm not happy about. And
The photograph right here.
one of them is
Pretty.
the lumber on the stairs. As you go up the stairs, maybe it's gone by now because I mentioned another director, but there's lumber that's been sitting there since the last rehab a year ago May, right to the side of the steps as you go up. Okay? And there's things that are just, I don't like to even discuss them because it makes me very angry.
You micromanaging.
Okay.
All right, and we're moving on to Pinehurst Drainage Action Plan. Any update on that, Tom?
No, I think last month I reported that we had the power jet down there. We opened up about 100 culverts. We are now in litigation on a suit, so there won't be a lot of public discussion that I'm going to have on what's happening over there. I'll be meeting with insurance counsel tomorrow on the suit itself and talk about the approach from there.
Who is insurance counsel?
A fellow by the name of Skip Cornbrooks.
Law firm?
Salisbury. Law firm was, I'd have to get it, Mark.
It's out of Salisbury.
Yeah.
What happened to Linus and Blocker? They used
Okay.
get the big boys.
Item 12, recreation rules.
Actually, I think that one's completed. We have the book on file and it's been, all of them have been consolidated into it and they've been updated.
Move it down.
Okay.
And I looked at it, and we need to make sure that every set of rules has a date on it, so we know what the effective date is. Is that done yet?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, you've already, Tom, I'm just going to go through these real quick. 13, 14, you've already addressed with us. 15 is just continuing improvement. Unless anybody has anything to add. 16, 17. You want to mention that at all?
No.
18, F&B working group, as needed. lease is covered. Marketing plan, professional engineering agreement needs to be complete. Do we have a date on that one?
Hope to have it to you for the July meeting.
Has that been routed to the review team yet?
I've taken the bid proposals and they've been reviewed by Ted Maroney, Kerry Nelson. I've not taken any agreements to the contract with task.
That's it for the current PAL.
All right, new business. All we have here is an election review process update, just so people know, because even though it's been passed out to us before, we all know, but the next event is the Candidates Forum at the Community Center. I believe it's at 7 o'clock, is that right?
Yep.
Yes. On the 22nd?
Yes.
7 o'clock over at the Community Center is the Candidates Forum. The ballots are mailed to the OPA membership on July 16th. They're due back on the 12th of August. And at the annual meeting at 10 o'clock on the 14th at the Community Center is when we will announce the results of that, and we'll have our annual meeting. Okay?
Bill, if I may, is relative to the Candidates Forum, is on your paper a email address for Diane McGraw to, I mean, you can send in questions in advance for the candidates, is what I understand.
This is just a summary of main things. No, but let's put on the website.
It's already there.
Is it? Yeah, okay. Well, in that case. Yeah.
Okay.
And just a heads up on that, since I sit in on that as a liaison, they do a fantastic job. The amount of work that goes into
Election committee?
Yeah, I mean,
not
just
easy.
a tremendous amount of work and review, I mean, more than I ever anticipated.
Yeah.
And they just have done a fantastic job.
We're very fortunate to have volunteers like
Yes.
Diane McGraw, who very
That whole
fortunate
group,
to
the whole
do
group's
that.
outstanding.
Didn't I see something somewhere recently, last couple of days, that the questions for the candidates forum must be sent in ahead of time?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that a fact?
Yes.
They can't just be written out before the meeting? They
No.
must be sent in? Okay.
They go through a process of deciding which ones to ask.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
they're duplicate questions and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
And they're trying to hold this down to a, what is it?
Couple hours. Yeah.
2-hour meeting, and Diane, she did it last year. Yeah, right.
Well, maybe
But there's-
maybe when the press reviews these dates, they can say, anybody want to submit questions, they can send them in to the,
I think this year she's going to have some bowls that people in the audience would like to ask a question, they can write it.
so they can do it. I don't know.
That's not
She
what the
did that
press release says.
last year, Bob, as you recall, I think, that they had the opportunity at the end of the meeting, because there was an allocated amount of time, limited amount of time, for questions from the floor, in addition, but it's as time allows.
as time allows.
But she's also added in that old forum courier thing to ask, other candidates ask each other questions too.
Okay. All right, appointments, we have none. Do we have any more public comments? Yes?
Thank you, Mr. Rico. Joe Reynolds, 84 Watertown Road. Fee-based amenities are not businesses. I'm with Marty. I think that kind of lowers the expectation level for everybody working in this place. We don't have, they're not businesses, but they're open to the public where they pay to buy food, or pay to use the golf course, or whatever it might be. And if you go out and look at the front desk, you'll see a sign, a big sign right under it says, "Making every customer count." We don't have businesses, but we have customers. Pretty unusual situation. And the discussion about that they ought to make a profit or we shut them down, I don't think that's the issue for those that are concerned about it. I think for those of us, and I include myself, who are concerned about it, and I think Bill Rako, that they should do as well as they can possibly do. Now, if they can't make a profit, I don't know that you should shut it down. I mean, at some point, if they lost $10 million a year or something, we'd have to shut them down. But they should do as well as they can do. How you measure that, you can only measure it by dollars when you come right down to it. If a restaurant is
is something that the people in the community want to use, they're going to use it. We keep seeing letters to the editor in the papers about poor conditions, poor food, poor service. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But at any rate, we have customers and we have businesses. We are operating like a business. On the issue of the trailer, and just for my own personal clarification, Bill, you mentioned something about the board can't override ARC or something like that. But actually, the board ARC is not the enforcement authority for violations. The board of directors is. All the ARC can do is recommend that this board, or tell this board, there is no violation. No lot has a violation until this board of directors votes and declares it to be a continuing violation. So this board not only has override power, it has the only authority to make a violation a violation. ARC can't make a violation, only this board.
Well, if I may respond, just I want to make sure I clarify that. You're absolutely correct, of course. That's a different issue. The only people who can approve a variance is the ECC.
A variance.
Okay. And that's what the issue was about that.
Okay. We got a report, according to Tom's report, from the county that our bridges are in relatively decent shape, need some regular maintenance work. In my mind, an association member calls into question, in my view, the decision-making power and the research and the data acquired by staff, which now appears to have been a knee-jerk reaction as a result initially of Kerry Nelson looking at bridges because a bridge in Michigan fell down and raising the issue to some high level. Then we, I believe, hired some outside firm who came in, and then we put in the budget, as I recall, $800,000 or so to replace these bridges. Now, 2 years later, the county is saying these bridges are okay, they need maintenance. All it does is call into my mind the decision-making processes that this board of directors goes through, based upon information provided by staff. I'm not saying the board made a bad decision. The board made a decision based upon information provided by staff. And in this case, you could not rely on that information. It was not accurate.
It's just all
the letter that Marty mentioned earlier about the board or someone from OPA mailing a letter approving the Burbridge change on C2. I'm curious about when that was done. My memory isn't what it used to be, but I don't recall that being at a public board of directors meeting. Was that issue to send that letter ever approved by an action or a motion by the board of directors at a public meeting?
No.
No.
Is this a public comment or is this
Yeah, this is a public. I think this is public comments, Joe. If you want the
That's a
answer.
reasonable question for an association member to ask this board of directors. Somebody from this
I asked the same
association
question
sent
this
a letter
morning.
to the county expressing our, I don't know how you want to describe it, approval, whatever, of a zoning change. It was never even discussed in public. In fact,
To honor your inquisition question, I will tell you that I searched the records of the minutes, both closed and open session, could not find any record of that. I do have a copy of the letter, and we can go back and dissect how that all happened, but it ain't gonna happen again, okay?
Who signed the letter?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
On whose authority?
Listen, at the point, just because of, no, I'm not gonna respond to that.
That's right.
You have,
That's right, Dave. I'm on an association.
you have public, this is public comments, and it's
This is
not,
public comments.
and restricted to that, and your 5 minutes is getting up.
Okay.
Dave, my 5 minutes is not up. Tell us, is my 5 minutes up yet?
Doesn't make a difference. Hey,
Pardon me.
Ra-
Is my 5 minutes up yet?
You got one more.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I don't have anything to respond to Dave other than he has expressed typical board arrogance toward association members. Thank you.
All right. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, for the record, I think it's important to respond to at least on the bridge matter. And Tom, you may wish to add your comments, but I think you've mischaracterized totally what has been presented in the past. The original estimate of the cost of the bridge was based on the need to do something in the next perhaps 3 years. And I believe that was teed up at the time we put together the projects that needed attention over the next 5 years. So that was identified as a need within a 5-year time frame. It was recognized and fully understood, I thought, by the board and everybody else that there was no immediate action except for some minor repairs.
What?
But then, may I finish? But that over the next several years, there would be some major attention. And that, I think, came from engineering reports, consultation with the county, and so forth. It was never presented that something needed to immediately be done costing $800,000. So it was a longer-term thing that was out several years.
If we're going to keep the record straight, that's not the way it was presented to the board. It was presented to the board as $880,000 now.
More importantly, I think that the initial comment was that we've received a report from the county on the bridges, and I've told you what the report was. That is not true. I told you the county has the report. They reviewed it with the commissioners yesterday, and I'm expecting receipt of it tomorrow, at which point I will send it around to the board, but I have not read it, so I don't.
But if you go back 2 years.
So Pete, I think you're on thin ice there.
The last report basically said, clean it up. The only report that said we had problems was the Sule report, which got a gut reaction from
January
me.
2009, we had a report which stated we need to do, from that opinion, emergency repairs, immediate repairs required for both those bridges. And based upon that, we commenced action to complete the design of the bridge, and we assumed that we would have to pay the $800,000.
And that was not a staff recommendation. We had an engineering report.
Right.
We had a subsequent engineering report which which didn't counteract it, which said, in fact, the bridges had to be replaced, but that it wasn't a matter of that much urgency to do it within that year.
That's right.
So we had time. So we knew that.
We did.
And as a result, the budget was modified to reflect that.
Exactly. But anyway, there were some. But what the point made is that we initially thought there was emergency, then there wasn't. Okay, and there's not. Okay. All right. Any other public comments? All right. Do we have any questions from the press?
Comment for Tom Olson, just to let him know the fireworks thing went out. We got the press release on it, so it'll be in the papers.
Okay. Then if there's no objection, this meeting is adjourned.